Thompson Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us modern-day slaves. And everybody's just walking around, out in the clouds, and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobster, the father of disinformation. Before we get into today's show, a little reminder. At the 30-minute mark, we're going to go live exclusively for the wealthy portion of our fan base. That is over on patreon.com/Nephilim. $5 is a lot of money.
It's a lot of key.
This economy, in this economy, dude. Patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. You'll continue watching this episode, engaging in the live chat, gaining early access to episodes before they release to the general public, as well as early access to Bohemian Grove tickets. It is happening. It is a thing. We're aiming for probably February, March. We'll, give you the details as we go forward. Also, a discount code off of merchandise from toplobster.com is over there. Which one do we want to do? We never look at the B'nai Ha Elohim.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is a good one. And I was driving past the Benihana's the other day and I had a laugh.
I think I made this one because you went to Benihana's.
I had a hibachi time.
Being a glutton. So
I wasn't being a glutton. It's a hibachi. You go there, you have a good time. They
squirted a copious amount of sake in your mouth.
Show them the back of the shirt. That's where the design is. It's a dope ass design. I like that. Very cool. B'nai Ha Elohim. You guys get it? It's a pun.
B'nai Ha being sons of God.
Right. There
Elohim.
you go.
Yes, there you go. All right, whatever. Let's get into the guest. This is
TopLobster.com. Joining us today is Austin Picard, fan favorite, king of the plug. He is back once again. And
the plug.
We're both of these things are true. Well, I mean, people do love Austin, though. They're always excited when you're coming back on the show. We announced it earlier to the Patreon members, and everybody is pumped. Obviously, a really big topic to unpack today. We're breaking the seal, ladies and gentlemen, on the Charlie Kirk situation. It's time to get conspiratorial. Before we do that, Austin, where can everybody find your work?
And the Underclass Podcast, basically everywhere for the most part. I think the definitely the best place to support me is the Patreon. Right, patreon.com/the Underclass Podcast. At least I have a paywalled incentive there for the show, whatever this is, with me and Sam and Brad. And it's always a good time. Yeah, we just we just did one last night too, and my God, there are so many just ridiculous, extraordinary details coming out about this recent Charlie Kirk event. But before we get into that, I should say it was hilarious. I went on Tim Foyle the other day with Brad. And dude, you called me the king of the plug. I couldn't shut up, dude. It was such a struggle. I tried. I honestly apologized like 3 times. And then at the end of the show, I realized that Sam had brought me on because we were talking about James Holmes, and I brought up the LIBOR scandal connection to there's a connection between obviously James Holmes' father, Robert Holmes, and then also you have Adam Lanza's father, right? Who they were both scheduled to testify in this upcoming LIBOR LIBOR scandal court hearing, which was legitimately about rigging the international finance rate, which completely affects the overall global economy. And and so I brought that up, and he's like, "Oh my God, you got to come on the main show, and we have to talk about that." And so I go in expecting to, like, I don't know why I go in expecting to provide all of the details of James Holmes and like get into the crucial dynamics of what
not going to happen.
Nah, that didn't happen at all. We started directly at the LIBOR scandal, and I'm like, oh. But either way, I feel like.
But this is but I mean to highlight that really briefly, this is the one where both of their kids end up being in the most high profile shooting events, in recent American I mean, the idea that is a coincidence is I wasn't even aware of that. Now I know where Sam got it from. That's funny. Because I heard Sam mention that and I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Mhm.
What are we talking about? The Aurora shooter and Sandy Hook, right?
Sandy Hook. Yeah.
What are we talking about?
It's almost like that show, whatever this is like the handler for Sam Tripoli, because
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
get dribs and grabs of whatever it is that you guys are talking about. That hits it to the main show.
Dude, when I
Love
heard
it.
that, I was like, that is one of the biggest conspiracies that barely anybody knows about. And I'm not saying that my, scope of knowledge is representative of everybody's, but that is not a well-known thing that
No.
both of their sons were in the most high-profile shootings that, in recent memory. Absolutely insane. Were the shooter. Oh my God, man. It's completely incredible.
Telling you it.
Was that a plug?
I think that was a plug.
Did you
Yeah.
plug? Where else
Respectful.
can people find you?
6 minutes?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. No, honestly, that's basically it. The Underclass Podcast. You can support me pretty much anywhere where you can find podcasts. But yeah, man, I've just been really trying to. I've been off and running with this new concept, obviously, of like questioning the psychology of a modern mass shooter, which
Yeah.
I think overlaps perfectly with honestly what just happened in this high impact event, at least as far as the over emotional consequences involved, and how it's every side of the political spectrum is getting what they want out of this, and I see that so very often in these very emotion arousing violent false flags, let's say,
Mhm.
right? And I just think that the name of the game is to effectively kind of inflame this culture war, and I think racial tension is among the sort of crucial factors that they hope to implement. Another reason why I think that Charlotte train stabbing is so relevant in this current moment, and another reason why I think it got the spotlight. Right, it was a strategic spotlight. The media always kind of picks and chooses what they're going to run with, and yeah, in my mind, I just see no coincidence there. And then of course he comes out and claims that he's under mind control, right? Which is absolutely insane as far as the
Yeah.
actual perpetrator.
Yeah. So the two things about it, right? Number one, they waited 2 weeks to release that footage. And then what you're talking about, Austin, is this guy saying I've been controlled by a man-made material. Basically, if you can get past because his language is,
He was actually talking to his sister. I thought that was his
was
attorney.
his sister. I thought
was
it was
like,
his
if this
attorney.
is his attorney, this is
Like,
horrific.
what you mean, baby?
What you mean? You have this war in Ukraine right now?
But
Right.
he's saying that this man-made material is being controlled by somebody outside, and they chose this person as a victim, this Ukrainian woman who otherwise he would not have chosen. And a lot of people don't want to listen to that right now because black crime statistics, but very, very, very important to the conversation.
I will also say, we brought it up before, but the amount of blood that comes from the neck in both of these cases is just eerily similar.
Yeah.
It's like it's probably the same entry point.
I know. So let me ask you this, Austin. Is it like, because a lot of it, we're thinking about like a Manchurian candidate, somebody who's been activated to go and do this thing. And maybe that is the case. He's talking about having a man-made material in him. But it seems to me like this is happening at scale. And at any given moment, they are cultivating and looking for the most emotional, heart-wrenching version to achieve whatever outcome it is that they want, which is why they sat on this thing for 2 weeks. And it's like, this is a very real event.
Mm-hmm.
But because a lot of people are like, she wasn't even stabbed. That's not, I'm like, I don't know, dude, looks horrifying to me. I could be wrong. Very open to being wrong. I'm often wrong, but she looks horrified. It has every type of heartstring pulling hallmark that you would need to achieve, whatever your goal is. Is this what you think is happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that honestly, when it comes down to it, when you're in that over emotional state of mind, in that sort of state of reaction, it's the reactionary state of mind as well, which I think we need to be out in front of this psychologically, at all times, trying to kind of at least insulate ourselves, right, as much as possible with a defense mechanism where we sort of can recognize the patterns and we don't fall into the traps and we remain skeptical leading in, because through the over emotional induced reaction, you lose all ability of critical thinking, as far as you have no critical thinking skills involved in that sort of frame of mind. And I think that is sort of it's by design for one, but it's also what they hope to kind of provoke out of the general public. And the vast majority of us just fall into that preordained outcome and that trap that's been so strategically laid. And I think so much of that is through the conditioning aspect of just, since from day one. I mean, our infancy, inherently our only exposure has been overexposure to propagandistic programming and conditioning at every level. And so I feel like so many of us are in this sort of identity crisis. Whether we are acknowledging it or not is the crucial, I think, factor, and usually leads to one, you being some sort of like potential threat to a certain extent, at the very least, by I would think, just as far as the mindset alone will typically, in my mind, it only kind of what is it, just sort of provokes this lower frequency environment, and I think that's where the priority targets become, just it's you want to break free from that sort of overall structured system that is plaguing society at large, and I think that's my goal, is at every level to try and remain objective. I hope to have some sort of working conclusion in my own mind's eye, but it's very difficult for me to, say I am certain of anything except for sort of like crucial foundational principles that I can rely on at every turn and won't lead me astray and lead me into those sort of dangerous environments.
I think it's, we could talk a little bit about the fallout that's happened since the death of Charlie Kirk, which, we were talking before the show, even that is contested. I'm aware within this conspiracy community, there's quite a bit of people who are saying it's not even the case, that this is a squib. I don't fault people for doing that. You know what I mean? Because they've lied to us so intensely and so fantastically for so long. Who knows? Could be the case. I don't think it's the case. I think the dude, looked like he was slumped, but people are showing there's something under his shirt, this and that. And we can get to that. But since Charlie Kirk has passed away, since the Ukrainian woman got stabbed in the train, we're now seeing a lot of things. And just because I say this is like the left doesn't mean that I'm even condemning these things. I think Austin's right. It's important to not be emotional and keep a level head and remain objective. But we've seen that emotional response, and it's manifested as people are marching. People, Max Meeks in the chat said the firings over the weekend. Yeah, tons of people have been doxed, have been fired from their jobs. The internet is now flooded with sobbing leftists who have lost their jobs one way or another. There's also quite a bit of trolls out there, so that's worth mentioning. I watched a bunch of people get got by a comedian who was posing as a leftist who lost their job at the diversity and inclusion sector of their. It was pretty funny. But it has served. There we go. He says, thank you for the $2 super chat. Maxie says, Charlie Kirk was the signal fire. It's lit. So whatever you make of the situation with Charlie Kirk, whether or not he's actually dead, whether or not even Israel killed him, which we're going to get into all of that as well. What it has, it's like Austin just like, geez, man. It
burying
has,
the lead.
Yeah, it has served as, he's like, let me write that down. Israel did it. It has served as a beacon. And now what it's done is it's given kind of carte blanche to reciprocate the behavior that has been levied against the right or conservatives or anybody who's really just not left leaning enough for the left over the past decade. And I wonder, really, to both of you, to you, Top and Austin, what do you guys think about that?
You're in my house asking me questions.
You know what it is? It's like
this guy.
I know how your brain works, and I know that you kind of go, well, you. This is a Christian show, and I'm sorry, and I won't do it again.
Don't do it.
But you, you did it to us. How's it taste?
There's a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot. Well, what's the question?
The question is it the right move? Is it deserved? How do you feel about the fact that it's happening? That they're getting doxed? By the way, the amount of addresses that I've seen all over the internet, but you've been doxed and I've been doxed, right?
I've lost my job for over ideological purpose, so I don't give it.
There you go.
I don't care. I think this is part of the game. It doesn't help the way things are going, but they've decided that that's the ground rules, and this is, I'm not doing it. I'm not going out there and like looking at people's and doxing them and sending it to their employer. But when I do see it, I go, okay, you know, that like, yeah, this is what you've been doing, and now this is what's happening.
This is a reap what you sow situation.
I don't even know. Like maybe a couple months ago, I would have been like, yeah, I'm happy about this. Now it's not, I'm not necessarily happy about it, but I'm just like, this is the game you're, and now, I mean, I'm not even looking at the doxing, but the game that you're playing now to the left, you're playing not just a doxing game, which you were playing, you're playing a blood game. That's where we are now. So when things escalate, then they escalate. I didn't ask for this game, but that's the game that you're playing. So that it is what it is.
Well, let me ask you that then, Austin. What do you think about that? The doxing, the losing of the jobs, the marching. There was a White Lives Matter protest here in Miami. Obviously, it rhymes. It's not exactly the same. They're not burning down buildings. And I think that's kind of the point they want to highlight is, look, we can march and we can't do. But still, a lot of things are happening and they rhyme exactly with what we've been subjected to, but from the other side for so long.
Right. I feel like this is definitely the modern, it is the modern strategy of tension at play. You know, it's very alive and well, in my opinion. Operation Gladio just went underground. This is how you destabilize the domestic population, obviously. So I think the culture war escalation is by design. It's the desired outcome. And so when you see that the perpetrator, like the strength, well, first of all, obviously, all of the strange, misidentified perpetrators providing misdirection on the ground, which in my mind,
right off the bat,
screams operation, right? As far as how you would draw attention away while you have operational sort of assets strategically put into place, or as well as this sort of escape route, which is necessary. So you want to peel eyes away and draw them to certain other geographical areas while your operational assets are then, you know, sort of whisked away out of town. And we clearly saw, right, with the private jet going off radar and leaving directly after the event, and being so close by as well, as far as I think it was I-15, which again, it provides a perfect escape route. And this is how you would want to stage an operation as well. And then you have every single box being checked from day one as far as the perpetrator's alleged motives, not one of which have been confirmed, which is insane that this kid is still not even apparently cooperating with authorities whatsoever, and has yet to confess. Although I did see reports of him allegedly confessing early on, which is hilarious. It's like we keep getting this very muddy disinformation, you know, misdirection, in my opinion. And I think it's for wherever you hope to reside on that political spectrum, you'll get what you want. It's exactly how I feel about this, and that's why I saw. What was it you had mentioned? I saw this video that Sam showed last night on whatever this is of I didn't actually see the 6 members of the security detail. I didn't like watch from this specific angle where they're carrying him to the SUV, right? Which is very strange. Obviously, you would think you would want an EMTs involved, and like you would be trying to at least do, you know, some sort of medical response. But either way, they're carrying him. I was wondering, is he wrapped in like, what do they have on the wound? Because that was like gushing blood, right?
Yeah, there was no stopping that amount of blood.
Blood trail following the body being carried by the 6 members of the security detail. That's strange as far as how much an individual human would be, you know, just flooding out blood at that point, I would imagine. I mean, just especially considering the original view of the angle of the shot itself, right?
You know, I almost got to say too, because people are like, oh, it could be a squib. It'd be very hard to hide. I mean, you'd have to have, it's a lot. Max Meeks with the $2 donation said the lion is out of its cage. He said something else. Thank you very much for the donation. There's something else that he said that I want to highlight. And I think he said the killing Charlie was a huge mistake of the system. Now, Austin, I want you to speak to that. Was it a mistake, or is this a perfect puppeteering of these dichotomies that they've created?
Yes, I think that this is this is honestly how you achieve this totalitarian tiptoe to escalate into more of a dystopian direction, and it only involves your voluntary participation in this current structured system. So if you want to fall into that psychological, as far as in my mind, it's always this sort of mind manipulators are attempting to at least lure you into position. And I would just at least just kind of like, I think it's important to always pause and attempt to kind of reflect for a moment and make sure that you're not falling into that over emotional reactionary state of mind, because it's what they hope. Again, it's like, this is at every level. You're seeing people just shouting from the rooftops. I'm seeing the propaganda being parroted from the left. Gun violence, doesn't care about your ideology. And then you have obviously members on the right who are just were completely lying in wait for this narrative to form surrounding the perpetrator, which again, this kid, he screams path of the Patsy in my mind. I mean, at every level. And I think it's interesting because I've I've done when William came on, I saw you guys had him on as well to talk about the Manchurian Candidate, right? And I had him on recently, and to talk about the same thing on Friday. And
weird timing, right? Because we didn't know that we were doing a thing just before it was going to happen again.
I had told you, Austin, you would have came on before him. I'm kind of glad that we scheduled for after, but I'm like, we've got.
It would just be too close, the same subject, too close.
Well, no,
right?
William actually approached me to talk about the Manchurian Candidate first. I was like, let him go, and then you come in, and then we'll piggyback
Well, that's what
off
we said.
that.
We said to each other, we were like, but don't worry, because Charlie Kirk's going to die.
Yeah, I said, just wait a second, because I have something big planned. No, I'll play just like Christ.
Oh my God. Look,
that was a joke. Cash Patel.
Speaking of jokes, though, speaking of this heightened emotional state, I did see so Jose Galison, right? Already
talk about this guy again.
Yeah, because this is a great example.
He's laughing.
He posted something, right, where he's basically like, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I'm not going to lionize this shill for Israel, more or less. It's kind of like what, and dude, every single comment, they were like, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
there was somebody being like, I am coming to you. Like, I'm coming to, like, somebody was like, I am coming to find you. So you want to talk about we watched, the death of Charlie Kirk live on the show, and it was heavy. It was weird. It took the air out of the show. We were kind of on a comedic bent. Then all of a sudden, somebody in the chat said, this just happened. We went to the computer, and it was like the air was just taken out of the room, and it was just heavy, man. It was really heavy watching that. It was hard to bounce back from it. I'm an advocate of, obviously you remain objective and you analyze, especially if that's your thing. But the climate at the time was like, even us who, we're kind of assholes, I wasn't ready to slap that button. Wouldn't have made that joke that we just made. Certainly not the day of. It was like everybody was very emotional. It was very heightened.
Yeah. And I specifically, I always choose to, well, one, I feel like so much of the just sort of the environment on social media, specifically on Twitter as well, but not only, obviously, it just feels a lot of the it's strange that people feel the need to always be heard at every single level, every single time there's an event that takes place. It's like, that's not necessarily what, I think it's a lot of it's ego driven to a certain level, but also I get it. It's a relevant event. It's a major scandal, and clearly you want to address it.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, I obviously, I don't use social media in except to promote my show for the most part. I should probably post a little bit more often, but I don't know. I just honestly, it feels like it's extremely, it's something that feels like a waste of time, one, for me, and energy as well, because I'm too emotional to involve myself in like sort of engaging at a level where I'm going to have this constant conflict. Right. That's something that I don't want in my sort of, just sort of, I don't like to introduce that avenue into my life, because I hope to only kind of spotlight and pay attention to the positive things as much as I possibly can, because I feel like so much of this is an attempt to demoralize us at every turn. And so once you understand that ideological subversion is very much at play, and the key number one factor is demoralization as far as the first stage, then I feel like at the very least you should attempt to remove yourself from that equation as often as you possibly can. And that's my only concern with now I'm not at all like, targeting you guys as far as your online presence, whatsoever. So don't take it that way.
No. But I was actually gonna, thank you for addressing the elephant in the room. Yeah. And I have actually pulled back substantially because I realized that there was a time where I was playing this game, and the game was, I'm going to say the truth no matter how inflammatory it is, because you've silenced me for the past decade and I'm done with this. And then I realized that now I'm playing directly into, and I kind of knew it all along, really. It was just refreshing to be able to say these things. And then when I watched the rest of these people start also saying it, and they're getting their accounts boosted and everything, I'm going, okay, now I'm just playing into the hand of something. And it turns out that I kind of suck and don't have a whole lot to contribute besides this thing that I've been mad about. So now I'm just like, I'm sitting back and I'm watching it, and I'll say things occasionally, but they get no traction anymore because it's not black crime statistics, or it's not, it's time for the white man to stand up, or it's not something like that. It turns out that, what's that?
It's not. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's not reinforcing these agenda items that are at play. And I think so much of it is to plague, the general public into legitimately falling into, let's say, as a justification for violating the First Amendment. I mean, I've been screaming about that from day one, as far as the a task force is going to solve all our problems. It's like people sort of focus on what confirms their own bias in terms of their ideology,
just to clarify it too. It's like what I found myself doing was being like, hey, and then I'm going, but also they really want us to notice that. And then I'm going, hey, the blacks, look at these statistics. And then on the other hand, I'm shouting, they really want us to notice the blacks in the statistics. So I thought I could play this game of like, the problem is if the only people shouting about black crime statistics are people that want to accelerate some sort of an agenda, well, then those are the only people that are going to be listened to. But if you can get up there with them and make it two types of people that are yelling about the black agenda, ones that have, the black crime statistics, ones that have an agenda, and ones that are like, now that you're paying attention, look at this agenda. But I kind of did that for a while, and I got those people. They're here listening to this show and they agree with me. But I'm like, I'm exhausted of it now. I don't want to do it anymore, because not everybody sticks around for the nuance to also sit by your side and go, you're right, there is an agenda. They want us to notice this thing. And some people are just seeing your tweet and then going, yeah, dude, and then running off into the sunset to go and persecute the black, whatever, to fight that they're trying to engineer us to fight that they're never going to have to fight in. So I got tired of doing that. And now I'm just like, now I don't even know how to like play anymore.
Well, if I'm not doing comedy anymore, then I'm not really going to do it as hard as I did it before. Like I was like me specifically, I was operating in the absurd a lot, but that was part of like what I was doing. That's like part of my job. And now it's like, I don't do that anymore. So I'm not going to do that anymore. So that way you can't meaningfully misinterpret what I'm saying. So I'm like, I just stepped away from it, because I'm like, I see where you guys are leading with this anyway.
And it was like, you'd look over every once in a while and you'd have like a bunch of groypers clamoring on you.
I'm not going to go stand on the stage with you and say like crazy. Yeah. I'm saying this because it needs to have attention drawn to it, but I'm saying it in a comedic way. And now it's kind of like, well, I'm not doing that anymore, so no need.
Yeah.
And we just move on. So if it's a joke or if it's not a joke, it's just kind of, I don't know. I feel like make that a little bit more obvious. But thank you to Max. He was censored 10 years ago. And another super chat, $2.
He's an author.
No civil war, no war. Christ is king.
I mean, I
Okay.
do feel like he's right, though. No civil war, right? It's like we are dealing with a really old playbook of subversion and engineered revolution, engineered civil war. And it's like to engage in it, knowing that is retarded. But I don't necessarily have a solution in the other way. I'm just going, I can't, no matter how tempting it is, no matter how I'm fed up with the agenda, no matter how much I'm fed up with crime statistics, no matter how much I'm fed up with Israel's influence in our government, I'm not going to fight your civil war.
Right. I mean, I found it so interesting, and that also kind of reminds me that I do value, like, let's say, culture jamming, for an example. You know, I always thought it was valuable because at least it forcefully removes the veil for some people, and I appreciate that because it does move the needle in a positive direction. But then I wonder, you know, how much of a consequential outcome of like the polar opposite is kind of reinforcing these bad ideas in a certain way because it's misinterpreted, but not that robs it of its value. I just think that this is, you know, this is the name of the game, man, and where we're dealing with kind of like mental midgets at a certain level. You know what I mean? Like they're at this very low frequency of their interpretation and ability to critically think through these ideas, and most of it, I think, is due to this lack of self-discipline and sort of like, you know, committing yourself to just one, growing as a person, as an individual. I think that in itself, it's like you better be actively pursuing that on a daily basis in your conscious mind, in the forefront. You know, remind yourself what's most important, because I think knowing who I am personally, it's a slippery slope, my friend. You know, like one bad decision leads to the next, and then I become a monster. And I mean, that happens to people. And I feel like once I had substance abuse issues in my past when I was a younger person, and you know, it forced me. It forced me to reflect on the decisions I had made and the person I had become. And I kind of, there's a moment I'll never forget, man. Like my straight up, I was addicted to opiates for a while, right? And essentially, man, just looking for a fix at every level. You know, facing, you know, just sort of consequences that, you know, I deserved, but at the same time, it was just like, man, to see the collateral damage, right, that you cause, and my man, I mean, I've done things that make just it makes it difficult to really uh love yourself at any level. You know what I mean? Because you kind of have that, you have to come to terms with your character defects and the mistakes you've made in your past, but to what level you can kind of like set that aside and remove your baggage at the door, it's always a difficult task, you know. And I think that there's a moment I'll never forget. And you know, my mom, she looked at me once, and I was just desperate for a fix in the moment, and acting a fool, you know. And she just looked at me, man, and she's tears in her eyes, you know. Who are you? I don't even recognize you anymore. And it's just like, thank God, thank God that I had the ability to climb out of that, you know, darkness, because it was like I saw so many people um never get out, you know, and like just going through recovery and seeing like yeah, just the ultimate toll, and how some people just might not have the ability to climb back out from that pit of hell that they put themselves in. And I think that people need to remind themselves, this is why you surround yourself with people who drive you to be a better person and to improve at every level. And you know, I think that it's really, you know, once you understand that that's what matters most of all, right, is that you're consistently hoping to at least, you know, I think that one, it's sort of just as far as like, I'm very blessed to have married a woman that definitely brings the best out in me in many ways,
Mm,
right? And she sort of like drives me to be a better person. And I think that you sort of need that in your life. At least definitely some people do. I don't know
I agree.
if that applies to everyone, but for me personally, absolutely it does. And but I'm very grateful ultimately at the end of the day that I went through all of that. And because sincerely, I was forced to grapple with, you know, the sort of just when it comes to actually having these kind of psychological demons, you know, it really does become that. And I think that man, it was when I was researching Project Monarch and basically the roots of trauma-based mind control, you know.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I basically just discovered that really it's so strange when you figure out that Monarch itself was really kind of like, obviously, if you're considering the origin of Monarch, it seems to have been human honeypots utilizing child, obviously. But
Yeah.
as far as like, I just think that understanding that there's this sort of interesting, as far as, in my opinion, I think that people don't understand how loose of a grip they have on free will in general, you know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and uh and what I found is that there's legitimately a history of Project Monarch where they talk about demonic possession being the alters in the dissociative identity disorder equation. And I was starting to like it. Yeah, it made me uncomfortable. It was very unsettling reading through it, and because truly it made me consider that this is possible, right? And again, honestly, go ahead. Did you have some?
No, no, I was just going to say that we've gotten to this point now in our research where I'm calling things like Project Monarch and MKUltra government-funded demonic possession, and
Mm.
and I think you're absolutely right. People don't realize how loose of a grip they actually have. You know, your struggle was with opioids, but I think the big connective tissue here is the trauma, right? And that's present in the programming and everything. And that's what they're doing to us. And the thing that we're falling victim to isn't just mass opioids, which is, possible. Thank you to Max Meeks for the $5 donation. This dude's going to run out of money. Drugs in America are a huge factor. Yes. And many of your civil servants are on them. Yes. I've worked with them. It's true. I believe that 100%, Max Meeks. I think you're totally correct. But instead of opioids, the thing that we're losing grip and sliding towards is this massive reactivity. And the thing that's got us to that point is trauma. So they're traumatizing all of us on a mass scale. We got a t-shirt here. We bring it up all the time. Free range MKUltra chickens. I think that the MKUltra project, Project Monarch, and all of its subsidiaries, they were so fruitful that they scaled them up and then released them to the masses. And now we're all being subjugated to that level of trauma all the time. We're all being subjugated to that level of psychedelic, or, whatever your drug of choice is. So you've got the drugs, you've got the trauma. Who knows? I'm sure there's frequency that's involved in 5G towers. We don't know what it is. But my point is that great opioid that we're all slipping towards right now is whatever reaction they've primed us for. And God believe it that they've primed us for it. We're all sliding towards the ground beneath our feet is gravel, and we're all headed towards something really, really wild. And I do think, in this situation, the opioids is a great metaphor for this addiction, this thing that we want to use to alleviate this stress. And that is finally having enough and doing the thing, engaging in the war, condemning an entire race of people, whatever it is, you name it. There's something in here for everybody. Before we go any further, though, we're at the 38-minute mark, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Rumble, that's too bad for you. Go on over to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Continue enjoying this episode. If not, just wait until it releases in about a week in its entirety. Thank you guys for watching. So yeah, I think that is it, man. It's trauma, and it pushes you towards something to alleviate that trauma. For an individual, it's drugs. for the masses, it is a large scale reaction. Do you think I'm right on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the reason I brought it up is only because I view it as sort of a psychological weakness, although I went through it myself, obviously, and I think it's a vulnerability for really the vast majority. And that's why we have a society plagued with this sort of over pharmaceutical agenda, as far as like they're overly just consistently kind of like in a stupor, right? The vast majority seem to be prescribed either SSRIs or benzodiazepine of some kind, and this becomes a sort of in my mind, it's what's the term, where essentially it's fertile ground, basically, right? As far as your psychologically, your the state of mind that you sort of reside in, right? It becomes fertile ground because this is how you disrupt the neural pathways in the brain. And so I think that it's very easy to achieve, and obviously the sophisticated methods of mind control have been very much advanced over time into this technological state to where yeah, they've been able to utilize you know let's say ELF, right? Electromagnetic frequencies, EMF as well, low frequencies as well. And I think it's interesting because when I was on tinfoil, I brought up the Artichoke documents that I was reading through recently. And because it blew my mind that this dates all the way back to 53, where they could essentially utilize a telephone to basically draw an individual who was fully of free mind, right? In a free state of mind is what they claim. And they could trigger them into a fully hypnotic state of mind, right? A hypno-programmed state by utilizing a telephone, essentially, is what they claimed. And this is on the Artichoke documents, January 7th, 1953. It says, in all these cases, these subjects have clearly demonstrated that they can pass from a fully awake state to a deep H-controlled state. All right. And via the telephone, via some very subtle signal that cannot be detected by other persons in the room, and without the other individual being able to note the change. It has been shown clearly that physically individuals can be induced into a hypnotic state by telephone by receiving written matter or by the use of code, signals, or word, and that control of those hypnotized can be passed from one individual to another without great difficulty. It has also been shown by experimentation with apparently young girls that they can act as unwilling couriers for information purposes, and that they can be conditioned to a point where they can believe a change in identity on their part, even on the polygraph. So that was another reason why they wanted split personality spies, to essentially pass information without the individual victim even knowing it. And they would be triggered by a phrase or some sort of a code word mechanism that would essentially trigger them into the first layer of the hypnotic state. Now, this is something I didn't realize. There's layers involved in the hypno-programmed aspect of how they sort of fracture your mind. And the first layer is sort of the first level of suggestibility. And then the secondary layer has to be re-triggered by an additional code. Now, this makes all the sense in the world if you consider the Manchurian Candidate as an example, right? And even the 1962 film with Sinatra and Angela Lansbury, they sort of played this out perfectly. I stayed up last Thursday till like 3 a.m. and I made like 2 whole pages of notes. And then I completely derailed William during the process the next day. I was like, mother. We had a good time. I still
Austin, for that Project Artichoke paper is does it mention the framework beforehand that somebody has to be subjected to in order to become under deep hypnosis through a phone call, or is that just like anybody?
That's a scary thought.
That's what I thought about. What was the most extraordinary aspect of this document was essentially that these documents that dropped in 53 legitimately had no prior programming involved. It was just they found a way to utilize basically key phrases within, and it's also, I think they do need to have some frame of reference for who the individual is. I think because they are pulling on emotional strings. I think that people need to understand, and this plays into the Queen of Diamonds in the Manchurian Candidate, because it's reminiscent of Raymond's loved and hated mother, right? Which obviously she's the second key to clear the mechanism for any other assignment, is the alleged purpose of this, right? So they're playing on his Oedipus complex as well, because this dude, that's so crazy, right? I didn't realize in the book itself, it's unlike the movie, right? In the final scene where Angela Lansbury reveals to Raymond, her son, that basically I told them to build me a killer, and they brought me you. You know what I mean? It was like she never intended it to necessarily be her own son, but she wasn't obviously opposed to sacrificing him for the sake of the operation itself and the overall grand agenda at play. But still, what she do? She kisses him twice on the cheek, and then she basically just like kisses him on the lips for a very uncomfortable long amount of time. and I was like, okay, what are they implicating there, right? And then William tells me in the book, I haven't read it yet. I'm definitely going to now. But in the book, I guess Condon essentially has it written to where they had a relationship, and he was traumatized as a young person by his own mother, who forced him to pleasure her. And then essentially this develops into this hatred complex that they had, right, for each other. Raymond absolutely despised her because the first time he has a potential girlfriend, she completely destroys that his ability to even have a relationship. And so again, it's just very interesting to me. It screams of Lee Harvey Oswald, because he had very similar characteristics and a background story to where allegedly he had been potentially abused by his own mother, and that at the very least he had extreme emotional issues that were tied back to his mom, which I found interesting. And if you read about basically Oswald himself, it's so crazy, man, because his father, I didn't realize this, but his father apparently is he's I believe, let me find it. It's so strange, the fact that he's actually let me find it here. Let's see. Because it's so interesting to find out that he had strange connections politically to, I believe it was Roosevelt, which is so insane. And again, it fits perfectly in with this ridiculous glowing background between all these alleged, let's say Patsies, in my mind, because I think far more of these individuals are clearly programmed to Patsy than they are programmed to kill. And they're just,
I mean, they had that first guy, George Zim, comes out and he's
Programmed to Patsy is
to Patsy is a banger. That could be a good band name, a good t-shirt. That's a good podcast name.
There you go.
So George Zim, right after the Charlie Kirk shooting, he gets apprehended. He goes, shoot me. And then all of a sudden, pants on the ground, looking like a fool with your pants on the ground. And
great song.
And for whatever reason, they're then interviewing a guy immediately after Charlie is shot on the ground there, still at the location, and he's going, George Zim was a loony boony, may have been a little crazy, but he's a patsy. So he's using the word patsy, and somehow he knows the guy, George Zim. So his name's already out there. Programmed to Patsy is the name of the episode at the very least, but it needs to be a product, and or a book or something. And he knows George Zim's name, and he's already saying that he didn't commit the crime, and he's also calling him a patsy. The whole thing immediately screams, and we saw that live when we were doing the show. That's how quick it came out.
We're like, what the hell is that?
And we're like, this is it. Because I was saying, pay attention in the next coming days. We're going to get all kinds of like weird Manchurian Candidate that's going to, but the show didn't even end. And we got that piece of footage from somebody that allegedly knew him.
There's that guy. There's also the guy that's celebrating in one of the frames.
It's insane. And he goes, no, I was just saying USA because whatever. Have you seen the movie Weapons?
Distraction.
Yeah. That's literally said it. Have you seen the movie Weapons?
No, but I've heard about it, and I've seen a couple of clips of it. Yeah. It looks insane.
Your identical twin brother Donut, shout out Donut. He did a dive on it. We got to have him on. We're gonna have him on to talk about the movie.
That's why I made the shirt for.
That's right, the MKULTRA shirts.
MKULTRA, John C. Lilly Dolphin.
I want to do like a breakdown on the film. Honestly, I'm wondering if we should do an elongated version. He can do it to his Patreon members. We'll do it to our Patreon members. We'll do it together.
We'll just psyop them together.
Psyop them together. But really early on in the film, we're going to do a little bit of spoilers here. It's like the whole thing is predicated on a bunch of children from elementary school go missing in one class, 17 of them. And Illuminati confirmed. And I habitually pay attention to the background noise of a film. I can't not now. I'm always looking for like, what's the reading material, what's on the show, what words are in the background. Immediately you get 1948, like in the opening scene, it says 1948 India. I'm immediately thinking 1948 Operation Paperclip. I think most of this MKUltra crap.
Actually, before you even head up with that, 1953. That's right. I know you probably heard our spiel on Andrija Puharich, but like when you're talking about elf waves, which he developed, you're talking about like dental tooth implants. I mean, the guy was obsessed with this stuff. So 1953, Operation
perfectly.
Artichoke is like, I mean, it has this guy's name written.
These guys were sprinting with this research around this time, and it was getting spread around to everybody who needed to know, and they were developing all these programs at the exact same time.
Continue the classroom.
So 1948, right? We're talking about Operation Paperclip. I think all of this comes from the research that the Nazis were doing as far as like traumatizing an individual so that they disassociate, and then you're creating space for a second programmable personality, among other things that you can achieve when you do this. But then the very next thing you see is on the school blackboard, it's parasites, and then a bunch of information about parasites, and then it's whales and a bunch of information about frequency. And I'm going, what is going on? They're telling you something.
They asked
right
me why
off
I
the
have
bat.
a whale tail.
Now
here.
you know why. You didn't know why before, but
yeah.
it was that's why you have it. So parasites play a huge role in demonic possession, and then of course there's TV episodes later on in the background of the film that are talking about a host being taken over by a parasitic cordyceps mushroom. Now they no longer have free will, and they're controlled by something else. If you're paying attention to this whole thing, it is telling you about this MKUltra program, this Project Monarch. By the way, the characters throughout the film, they through witchcraft, which always seems to show itself, right? We talk about this before. The spiritual element of these things always is satanic. It's witchcraft, So they are becoming puppeteered effectively by witchcraft, and the way that she does it, I'm not going to tell you how she does it, but all these things plug into, and then you have the school element. And the school element to me is like a nod to these school shooters, because these kids, it's called weapons for a reason, and without giving too much away, and I'll land it here, the kids become weapons. And so it's crazy how much, I don't even know why. Sometimes I'm like, what did somebody just see this playing out in real life and go, this would make a fantastic piece of fiction? Or whatever the case is, you could say revelation of the method, yada, yada. That is a film, Austin, that I highly recommend you check out. It's telling you all of the pieces of this puzzle, how they do it, the tools that they use to do it, the years that they started to do it, all kinds of shit. It's fantastic.
Dude, I'm definitely gonna watch it now. I know, as far as it's so strange, the Kabbalistic nature of Monarch mind control and how it's specifically referenced and described as having this significant Kabbalistic theme involved, which blew me away. That this was described by John DeCamp, who's the former Nebraska state senator, legal counsel for Paul Benassi and many of the Franklin victims, right, of the Franklin scandal, and he legitimately said that himself when he was describing Michael Aquino's role in essentially running the Monarch boys, and which really it's strange. And again, it's like you mentioned the mass shooters, and how the last time I came on, basically I'm questioning the concept of a serial killer and the urban myth of a snuff film, right? And then also we're essentially at this point we're effectively intended to believe that around the same time that serial just happened to fall off the face of the earth statistically, we now get mass shooters to fill the void, right? And they begin to surface, and we're, of course, I wonder why we're intended to believe this is some grand coincidence, but it sort of makes sense in my mind. And then I had recently watched Bill Cooper respond to Columbine right? And essentially how, and oh my God, there's an occult connection as far as to Columbine that I didn't realize as well from some of the student victims that were surviving victims and then had very strange consequential outcomes in the just couple of years after the event took place, and were effectively silenced in my mind, which was by design, I feel like. And
wait, what was it? You're saying they had strange consequential outcome? What do you mean? What did they experience in the coming years?
So this is crazy. At least my favorite example of this, it comes in the form of this this victim witness who her name is, let me find it. It's so interesting. Her name is, or no, yeah, this is it's from the mother is giving the actual statement, but the name of the student is Mark Taylor. It's a male survivor, and so he claims that what he saw while he attended Columbine High School was the open use of drugs, classes that consisted of teachers coaching students on how to have better sex and discuss.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that they were having the discussion of witchcraft, which was suggesting a possible link to occult trauma programming, they claimed, which was a reflection on McMartin, obviously, in many ways, the McMartin preschool, because so much of what they claimed to experience, right, when the blood rituals, when they would go underground into the tunnel system, which led to the neighboring properties, which is allegedly where they would come up into a garage in one of the neighboring homes, and then they would essentially traffic the children from there to the locations where they would be abused outside of the school. And all of this would be obviously done. This is why there was like this floor entrance in the school itself and like a closet area. And then there was also an external entrance that I believe Paul Bynum was the name of the Manhattan police officer, Manhattan Beach police officer, who went and found all these dead carcasses of bunnies and turtles and said that they were committing animal. Yeah, and then he winds up dead when he's supposed to actually go to court the day he's supposed to go to testify. He's dead, right? He winds up worst case suicide you've ever seen. He's a happy father, just had a child, and his career was entirely derailed. And of course, you had perpetrators who were then later, it was later discovered, right? They had personal information of the individual investigators involved in the case itself on their home desk when they were allegedly apprehended by the police, because they were all tipped off. They had full prior knowledge, same as the finders. When they raided the finders' properties in DC, what do they find? They found these basically a set of instructions and a communication log from when these private peer-to-peer computer nodes in the 80s, which is like unprecedented that they were so sophisticated at this time, were in discussion with the individual private computer node in Tallahassee, where the perpetrators were apprehended at the park with the children that were acting like animals, and so whenever what were they doing? They were being tipped off and told to cover their tracks, and they had provided instructions on how to keep the children moving through different jurisdictions so they would be out of sight from the authorities who were currently investigating, and instructions on how to infiltrate child care organizations and babysitting services and have members of the finders promote themselves to fulfill those roles, to have easy access to children. This is the name of the game.
Z-Man in the chat says it's weird when they bulldoze a school after a shooting.
Dude,
yeah.
And you know what else? I found out that those tunnel systems were dug before the school was ever built, and that the individual property owner who essentially was behind this. Yeah, dude, this was a op. This was an operation.
The school on top of the tunnels.
Yeah, brother.
So from its inception, they had
the escape route.
Not just the escape route, but the intention to do this.
Yes, and that's why the individuals who ran McMartin were perpetrators. It was the same. That woman, I forget her name now, but her son was the main key perpetrator in McMartin, and it was another situation where you had a perfect example of this sort of pedophile dynastic, right? Like as far as generational effect on this recycled abuse, right? And it leads to, I think these pedophiles breed more sociopathic pedophiles. It's like, I don't know what else to say, but that's what it seems like happens. And then also just imagine if you would want to somehow, have some sort of active just avenue of undocumented children, right? And I think that so often that's happening as well. And some of these, again, it comes up so often where the children that are utilized in these experiments, or at least used in let's say human honeypot, child prostitution, entrapment operations. I mean, it's basically if you look at it, it's very strange, because I know when I was talking about Monarch, this will blow your mind because it brings in the Kabbalistic nature. Oh, and I forgot the connection to Lee Harvey Oswald's father that I mentioned earlier. So his name, allegedly, because I think he's potentially actually the spawn of a Nazi breeding experiment with Carrie Thornley, but maybe I'm
Not
wrong
at all.
about
Doesn't even. I don't even flinch at
Didn't
that. I go,
flinch.
yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm
Checks
dead
out.
serious. And Carrie Thornley thought that they were both sort of experimented on through these behavioral modification techniques, and then kind of thrust into active domestic operations, which is why Carrie Thornley not only went on to create the and found Discordianism, the occult ideology, right, and belief system and religion, sort of cult itself, but he also was named by Jim Garrison as being one of the Lee Harvey Oswald impersonators, right? That were essentially, and he also claimed that he was running covert ops with Lee Harvey Oswald, and that's why they were stationed together at I think it was at Sugi in Japan, which was a known location for where they were conducting these experiments, but also where they were staging the fake defector program to send active assets into Russia on an intelligence dangle for the U-2 spy plane. And yeah, it's very strange, but it's interesting to actually follow his footsteps. Honestly, he came back on like a CIA plane. It's hilarious that people act like he wasn't fully compromised from the beginning, and just placed into position while already have he had lived a lifetime of sort of trauma in terms of trauma, right? Because again, it's like, but the point being, the father. So his name's Robert Edward Lee Oswald Sr. He served as sergeant in the U.S. Army during World War I, said to be the third cousin of President Theodore Roosevelt, as well as a distant cousin of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, which I just don't think most people realize that about Lee Harvey Oswald's alleged birth father. But it makes sense, right? Clearly, as far as if that actually is his father, then it would definitely like fit the pattern as far as like the fathers with glowing backgrounds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that
Makes you wonder
especially
too if it's just the background, like the military connection, or if there's like a bloodline, genetic aspect to it that does seem to show itself.
Maybe
over and
just
over again.
access to the bloodline of like maybe they just know that this bloodline has a specific set of characteristics that we can do XYZ with. I don't know.
I'm sorry. I was on Facebook and I'm arguing with people, which is
as one does.
Well, not really. It's a new landscape for arguing for me. I got tired of everybody on Twitter basically more or less agreeing with me, and so I said, "What's happening on Facebook? Let's go upset these people." And I'm telling people, like, you're getting caught up in this left versus right paradigm, when in reality, this is an orchestrated sort of civil unrest situation. This is two wings of the same bird being pitted against one another. The real fight's taking place over your head. What do you know about MKUltra creating a disassociative state? This is what I'm telling people on Facebook. Creating a dissociative state.
He's telling MKUltra victims what do they know about it, and they're just getting inflamed.
It's very frustrating because the guy's like, if MKUltra was so successful, why did we lose the Vietnam War? And I'm like, I can't even.
I was like, if MKUltra was so successful, why do you live in a box right now?
That's what he says. He's like, I live in a trash can. But it's like you can't even. I don't even know where to start with that conversation with you. It is what they've successfully done. If they've made it so convoluted, where like once you see it, you can track it all, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's like epiphany after connection after epiphany after connection. But until you get to that point where you're even willing to entertain that, I'm speaking Chinese to this dude on Facebook, and I sound genuinely. I haven't been aware of how schizophrenic I sound in quite some time because I'm talking to people who sound more schizophrenic than me. And so no, it doesn't even register. The audience goes, yeah, checks out. The guest goes, yeah, checks out. I go back to Facebook and they're like, in a cage with you, sir. You disgust me. You don't make any sense. You're talking gibberish. I want to go back to, because we promised the people this, and this is very important to me. We're looking.
We've kind of hopped, skipped, and jumped over the shooter, over
everything.
Charlie Kirk.
Honestly.
Well, that's where I'm going.
Everything.
I'm going to Charlie Kirk more specifically. You had a bit of a gripe with him, and then you realized that you hadn't really been absorbing his content.
I still do have a bit of a gripe with him. There was a video that popped up again. They're like, oh, look, he was like, really, this is, people were saying that he hated gays, but here he is. And he's talking about like Lady Maga. And he's like, well, she's a lady. And so I was like, this is kind of what got you killed, dog.
Yeah. It's
like,
towing that line. And
towing that line, not understanding that you're dealing with crazy.
Yes.
And there is in my opinion, no room for tolerance. There's not really a gray area here.
Well, it looks to me like Charlie was picked up at like 17 by Zionists. And
even younger, I think.
And they basically like paved the way for him, and he had a lot of good ideas, but they're, obviously making him toe a line. So this is where we land today. It's September 15th. So 5 days since the shooting, and more or less what's come to the forefront is Charlie towed the line for Israel and a couple of bad ideas for a while, made a lot of excuses about what was happening in Gaza. And so even though they shot him because they thought he was an extremist, a lot of people, especially on Twitter, said he's not going far enough. He's captured by the... Now, it seems that Charlie, in the days leading up to it, was willing to start to explore these ideas of, October 7th and how strange that entire situation seemed. There are people that are close to him. We talked about it with Brian, where this guy is saying Charlie is telling people that are close to him that he's worried they're going to kill him. And then, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu is like the first person. The Jerusalem Times, or whatever the name of their news publication, is one of the first things that reports the death of Charlie Kirk. Right. That's very strange. In a speech, Benjamin Netanyahu says, very sorry to hear about what happened to Charlie Kirk. By the way, we're taking Gaza. The whole thing is very strange, and now it looks like there is a big divide on Twitter. If you think the did it, well, then you are just consumed by Jew fever and you're an asshole. Or the other side where you're going, I don't know, he kind of seemed to be afraid that they were going to kill him. He was getting a little critical towards the end there about Israel, and this Benjamin Netanyahu thing isn't helping.
No, there's also the news where he was invited back to Israel, because when you get off the plantation a little bit, they go, hey, come on back.
Why don't you come back
and I don't really know what they tell you there, but you definitely touch a wall. And it didn't seem like Charlie was into that. And then he
allegedly rejected that offer by Netanyahu, right? When he gave him a call in like May, or no, maybe the letter that Charlie allegedly wrote to Netanyahu was sent in May. I think that was what Netanyahu first said. And then he said that he just talked to him a couple of weeks ago and gave him the invitation. He called him specifically and invited him to Israel.
It's a scary call.
Yeah. And the news came out that that by Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, right? Who he claims that he's really great on Gaza. He's definitely more leftist, than as far as politically speaking. I think economically more than anything. But he's one of those types. But he's still very valuable with foreign policy and things of that nature. But yeah, he definitely what he claimed in the Gray Zone article is that essentially Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu's funding offer, was frightened by pro-Israel forces before his death. And this was revealed by a close friend who's apparently involved with Trump at a certain level as well, which that ties back, by the way. I think the parents are important as far as even with Charlie Kirk, not only with the perpetrator, but with Kirk himself. I think one, there's not a lot out there in regard to them. And what I did find is somewhat suspicious in my mind. And also that the father fully funded the Turning Point organization from the beginning, which I found very interesting. He put up significant funds for Charlie to even begin in this sort of racket. And then, yeah, you guys mentioned that obviously the Israeli connections. You have Ben Shapiro taking over Turning Point, obviously.
Dude, that's really crazy to me. He now takes over Turning Point. Like that is that, and it makes you look at that situation where, you know, there was this whatever was going on with Timcast and the Daily Wire, and then all of a sudden Tim has a closed door meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Dude, man, the day I know I've told you about, like, when I went on Timcast with Clint a long time ago, and I was like, Tim is an asshole. But I'm starting to like really rethink my stance on that, because the day that we went, there was that like big strife between the Daily Wire and Louder with Crowder, and apparently there's a lot more to these agencies than I thought previously. I thought they look like media companies that spread right-wing bullshit,
right?
And the more that I look into it, I'm like, yeah, that would make me panic too.
Yeah,
these guys, like these two monsters, or I mean, I'm not sure where Crowder fits in that, but like you definitely have a monster in the Daily Wire, and there are contract negotiation issues there. There's money issues. One person's lying. There's a little bit of a fallout, and Tim is in full-blown panic.
Remember the whole Israel derangement syndrome, like kind of epidemic thing? Like Tim kept freaking out. I mean, screaming at his guests. Right.
When I say distress, though, like I've asked multiple people who've been on his show before. I'm like, yo, was he kind of like an asshole? And they were like, yeah. But I think what I saw was a little bit more like he didn't even come down from the room to like say what's up to people. I think he's just a regular autistic dude that doesn't like do contact well. And I understand that. I know a lot of people like that. But I was like, this was different. Like he was like stressed. High level stress. And I was like, I never want to go back to this place. It was a horrible experience.
I used to listen to him, but then when he would get into those screaming fits, I was like, what about what's happening here? What about what's happening there? You don't care about what's happening in the Congo.
I don't envy him. I actually feel bad because I feel like a lot of these people set out to do a thing. They set out like we're setting out to do a show. We're setting out to talk about certain things. You know, in the end, I would like this show to point back at Jesus Christ more than anything. But I can only imagine if it gets to a point where you have to be worried every second. You say, like, what a miserable.
It's like we have to keep this show like one that you can't put your hands on, right? Like one that if you're a marketing team, like a Jewish marketing team, you would look at this show and you would go, look at this trash. We don't want anything to do with this trash. This trash is retarded.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, just totally normal stuff happening here.
This is a bad show, and you don't want to invest in it. You don't want anything to do with it because these two guys,
this is our last episode, actually,
are not influential. We're not promising influencers.
But there is something definitely weird about it. And on second thought, it's kind of like, I don't know, like perhaps I've judged you too harshly, or perhaps I didn't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you guys are doing. It's the same thing,
dog. When
it's not good, it's not what everyone sees it
ain't
as.
On the up and up.
Yeah.
You know, when we bust the balls of Jordan Peterson, and then you look at
I got a lot of sympathy for Jordan these days,
when
man.
The mess that he was when he came back, the mess of a human being he was when he came back. What happened? I think these people, this is the Cass Sunstein cognitive infiltration. It's not a light touch, right? They're not just getting a guy and putting him as the silly, lovable host of a podcast. They are grabbing the people who are the most promising in the podcasting community, and they're throttling them. They're butt them, I think, is what. How long until David has an accidental discharge? Or he's pointing at the cameras
of the anus, or
well, that happens relatively often. But that whole idea of infiltrating a conspiracy movement and then implanting your people, that's not a soft touch thing. That's a we're gonna kill your family thing.
Yeah,
that's what I think. And it seems, I don't know, from this point, where we're standing here 5 days after the shooting, it seems glaringly obvious to me. And I could be wrong. Maybe I have a Jewish fever, whatever it's called. But I
get a really bad feeling. Like, so we have episodes like this on the show, but I mean, I'd say, man, probably 9 out of the 10 episodes we're dealing with like spiritual warfare. We're talking about crypto. We're talking about like more of the fun conspiracy. But I just have a feeling that is not going to be safe.
Yeah,
soon. Like the way that we're moving at this breakneck speed, like he said, you know, in some of these documentations, they're talking about like demonic entities behind MKUltra. I'm like, well, we're talking about this. It's not very cool.
Oh my God, that's a good point.
Not cool.
We're making t-shirts about this.
Yeah.
Binaural beatdown, baby. MKUltra Dolphins. This is we're wearing it. We're literally going outside with it on our chest. Yeah. And you too, Austin. I mean, you are in the nitty-gritty of it. At least we're over here being silly goose, and I got these silly characters stomping this guy out of my shirt. You're like saying names and dates and all the shit and the history of it. And I thank God that I am too retarded to know any of that or remember any of that. It's my saving grace, I think, is every time they look over, they see me pointing a gun at the screen and they go, not this guy, don't worry about it. But you, that's a different story, dude.
Well, I will say that I think, and this is no character assassination. I don't know any of these people personally, and I always try to refer back to that specifically if I'm trying to come to a firm conclusion on someone's kind of like, just as far as if they had any real integrity tied back to the foundation of this sort of movement in the alternative media space, right? The landscape itself, because I view Charlie Kirk as far more of like and this is nothing against conservative family values. I obviously appreciate that aspect of what he was attempting to kind of at least allegedly propagandize the youth, re-propagandize that, right? It's a newer
just a different type of propaganda. Yeah,
exactly. And so me personally, I just always viewed him as some sort of paid shill who was essentially running defense for the permanent establishment. And another reason why it's like, you know, why else would you go out of your way to defend that ridiculous signature and things of that nature? It's like, I could see where you're acting in good faith, and this is an honest devil's advocate sort of situation. But when you're just set on that path of forward momentum or upward momentum, and you have you kind of have all of the tools provided to you by the very insulated, unaccountable establishment that's driving us in the wrong direction, then what value are you to me?
These people aren't of value to
right.
People like you or people like us. I mean, he was definitely gifted some things, but there are things that he wasn't gifted. Like, he was very smart. His information recall was great, and his delivery method was like, there's certain things you can't teach. He was articulate. He was sharp as a tack. But yeah, there was very obvious areas where he was running. But then it becomes, you know, because you're saying integrity within this community. At what point can your integrity be bought, if not with finances, then with violence or the promise of?
True. And you know, it's hard for me because I personally do view so much of the Israeli narrative that forms around many of these events, especially in recent history, obviously, considering the Gaza genocide. Now, my mind, it's of mutual benefit to the globalist playbook. This is what you do. This is just a geographical sort of, conflict that it was always in the cards and intended to be achieved, right? At a foreign policy standpoint, as far as I'm concerned, this was always the goal, to completely, extinguish the Palestinian people and bring in Gaza 2025, right? The new AI smart city infrastructure, which they claim is going to replace that of the forsaken Palestinian people, right? Essentially, and we'll have Trump's sort of a golden statue and everything will be. It's just ridiculous to me that honestly, it's hard for me because I see Netanyahu as just another puppet, right? I think he's a puppet who's sort of out in front and running this agenda on behalf of the power cabal behind the scenes. This is what they do, and so this is why he was thrust on the Israeli public. He was facing criminal charges. He was supposed to go to prison. He had no political capital whatsoever, and so the Likudnik party decided, okay, we'll just pick him back out of the usual suspects that we utilize in this sort of format, and we'll place him back in power in order to let's say go down with the sinking ship that is the Gaza genocide. That's what's going to happen. There will be ultimate consequences as far as on the world stage, and is specifically with the power paradigm in Israel. But I don't think that in any way will it derail the ultimate agenda playing out and how this conflict was intended to essentially manifest. And so once more, I see no difference in the swing of the political pendulum. It makes no difference to me because we're heading in the exact same dystopian direction. And so I see Israel as a wonderful distractionary tool in terms of the globalist agenda playing out, and how much it keeps people from actually discussing who the true power brokers are in this format here and in the structured power paradigm. And it's difficult for most people to even, I think, kind of catch a glimpse into the underlying power structure, because it's not very, it's hard to even conceptualize. It takes a lot of work to be able to even kind of feel as if you've been provided certain windows, and you can have some kind of like even obviously it's an ever let's say evolving kind of interpretation of what it's become and where it came from and the reason why it's been sort of structured in this way. But it's always to insulate themselves from accountability. And so no way do I view the political puppets as the true power brokers. They're just supposed to take the bullets from the general public on behalf of the power cabal while they remain insulated and behind the scenes. And so I view it as we need to force open that very thick curtain disguising the political theater, my friend, right? Like that is, I think, what we should always be attempting to do, because who is that man behind the curtain, right? And I think that it's not Trump and it's not Netanyahu in my mind. These are, generational assets of the permanent establishment. There's a reason why Royal Casino International and Roy Cohn was his mentor. He's been drenched in blackmail, sophisticated techniques for his entire life. You see him with Roy Cohn at the costume party wearing makeup like he's his little bitch. Like, what is that? And then he goes and he accumulates all of these, blackmail assets like Adnan Khashoggi's yacht that's already rigged with audiovisual blackmail. And then he goes and buys the exact hotel Roy Cohn used to utilize for the Blue Suite parties when he decides to blackmail J. Edgar Hoover. So, this is nothing new. I'm getting sick of people like what happened the day Charlie Kirk died. The Republicans blocked the Epstein files release. Nobody even, look,
we're very far from even talking about that again now.
Exactly. And how is that not convenient, especially for the current administration, when you consider the, in my mind, and I found this insane because as far as just the recent revelation of the birthday book, right, and some of the crazy accusations, and it just sort of reconfirmed much of what we already knew at a certain level, right? But to actually see, there's footage of like him with a redacted version of the girl on his arm, and they're like, this is his girlfriend, and we think he belongs to the CIA. Basically, he works for the CIA, and that was one part of it. But then there's a whole chapter dedicated to children, and it's like coloring, right, and from the narration of a child, and they talk about pooping on the floor, and like it's so strange, dude, and but then again with what happened is the FBI, they decide to come out and make a claim, which to me sounded like this is sort of controlling the narrative, an attempted course correction if you're the current administration, at least for leverage as a political football against the Democrats. Because if you're considering they're still going to utilize that two-party delusion as a paradigm for the general public, then obviously what you would want is, hey, I'm not the only pedophile, Trump would say, right? As he points to Anthony Weiner's laptop, which is basically what happened with this report, is that the FBI claims they're now going to open this internal investigation into whether its own agents obstructed, quote, politically sensitive cases, including the cover-up of the Anthony Weiner laptop. So I think, okay, well, that could be political cannon fodder in terms of Hillary Clinton and Uma Abedin. Hey, look, the Democrats are pedophiles too, you know, and it could at least sort of help save face at a minimal way in terms of Trump himself and how they kind of continue forward during this current
I'll tell you what, though, these moments, as obvious as it is that it's obfuscation and it's furthering the political cultural divide and all these things that we talked about here, just dipping my foot on Facebook indicates it worked really, really, really well. So well, dude. Like it's incredible that nobody, I thought for sure some of the arguments that I got in, the appeal to like, hey, conservatives are not that much better than the left. You know, I think that the left is very wrong and conservatives are in a slightly better place than them, but ultimately they're both retarded because the game that's being played is political espionage. It's engineering revolutions, it's obfuscation, it's smoke screens, it's fog of war, it's all of this stuff that goes way over the general public's head. And I thought, well, for sure, saying both sides are retarded and that the, whatever you want to call them, the elites are playing you as a fool and pitting you against one another would garner some, and not sympathy to my plight, but at least like okay, go on. And it was deaf ears. In fact, they thought that was retarded. And I go, oh my God, how far have we come? I thought we were making progress. I live in an echo chamber.
It's so multi-layered and sophisticated. And it's like, that's why I'm glad that we have, we had like this sort of, it's almost beautiful. And when we should, I don't know how we're even going to release the William Ramsey one, but like in tandem, William Ramsey to set the table. And then this episode here.
This is like part 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to our friend Matt at the coffee shop. I'm trying to explain to him, he's like, how do you really think like Israel? And I'm just like, man, it's a lot crazier than you think. There's a lot more history to understand, and just like even current history that you just don't see. So it's like, but this episode serves as a really good starting point for people interested.
I think so.
But it's still hard.
Jack Burton says Facebook is boomer psyop land. Dude, I'm talking to millennials. They're spiritually boomers. I know that, but like I'm talking to millennials. We grew up with punk rock, right? And which was anti-establishment and anti-government and anti-corporation and anti-big bank. These were the things that's the music that we grew up on, was spreading that sort of a message. And now somehow we've come to this place where unironically it's gay and retarded to look at the government as if, and it's like, obviously you have to have more nuance in that. What are we talking about? The government, even that is like, we're not talking about the guys that fix the roads, but like, let's just use round terminologies that everybody can understand. The government doesn't give a about you and is happy when you fight in the mud amongst yourselves so that they can continue with whatever run-of-the-mill corruption they have planned, right? We can understand that. No, we can't. Conservatives are gay is what I'm getting on Facebook. Well, they don't say gay because they're not fun. They're like, you want to be cucked for conservatism. It's like, you don't have anything to conserve, you childless, jobless faggot. That right. and your entire thing is just caught up in being so full of disdain for the world that never went your way because you were born ugly, whatever.
Yeah, but look, now we're caught in that conversation.
Well, yeah, because it's like, first I have to shame you,
but I'll
you have to identify what you are, and then I have to say, hey, but we're playing the wrong game.
I've got to have, like, I can't even have the conversation that Austin's having, because I have to have this conversation. This is how jammed up.
You got to lower yourself to engage with this really bad, obvious bullshit idea first. And then once we've done that, now I can bring you up here above the water a little bit.
I don't even know if we have to, but it's kind of like, yeah, I guess if you
No, you don't have
wanna-
to. You're absolutely correct. You don't
If
have
you want
to.
to live next to these people, you have to. But it's crazy.
It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating because it is. You're like trying to, you almost have to just drop a whole segment of the population, because in order to try to appeal to them, you have to like first convince them that you understand the game they're playing. And then once you understand it and you lay it out for them enough, then you can be like, but look, there's a game above it. And it's wasted time.
It's wasted time.
It's wasted time. And it sucks, but you got to just drop them. And I just think it's crazy because we're talking about, like I said, millennials. What are we doing here? The programming, the MKULTRA.
We're waiting for the next psyop. That's all. I mean, that's what I feel like. We're just talking about it, and we're just like, well, what's the next one going to be? I'm kind of interested in the story at this point, but
absolutely, I'm curious to see how it plays out in terms of the trial, because if he's seriously not cooperating whatsoever, is allegedly being kept in like this high security detail, this high security ward, obviously for his own good, right, his own benefit, so he doesn't self-harm. I'm sure he's in a smock and being flooded with pharmaceutical agents to keep him in a dissociative state, I would imagine. Who knows? I would be far more just as far as like, I would suspect that they would come down with some sort of confession if that were the case, because they even attempted to use a truth serum on James Holmes during that trial, which is hilarious and unprecedented and violates your Fifth Amendment rights instantly, obviously. But he was completely showing signs of split personality, and they legitimately admitted that much throughout the trial, that he had developed split personality disorder. But that had never been the case, although they did fundamentally like come up with this interesting background utilizing, I feel like, a compromised therapist from day one, when he was a young person, seeing nail ghosts allegedly, or hearing nail ghosts tap on the wall or something was allegedly what they claim. But I think
so he's saying that in his youth he had like ghosts tapping on the wall with their nails.
Yeah, it's very strange. What James Holmes said was, during his childhood, he was frightened of what he called nail ghosts that would hammer on the walls at night. Holmes saw social worker Margaret Roth once before she sent him to psychiatrist Len Fenton, and it was Dr. Len Fenton who legitimately was his therapist for like, almost 10 years or something. It was like a long time that she was his therapist from a young age, and she's the one who gives the false constructed psychological character eval. And like, as soon as she gives the psych eval, it seems to like bury him in a way and drive the nail into the coffin of his case.
Yeah.
And you have to rely on I believe it was Mincer. I'm trying to remember the last name of the other psychiatrist who this guy came out. He ran his own psych eval, and he countered everything she had to say, and in a much more plausible way. Right? It was far more convincing, and he definitely convinced me, as far as he still obviously believed that James Holmes had developed schizophrenia at some point, right, and was definitely suffering from split personality. But he definitely feels as if, at least in the context of that psych eval, that's the one you should go and look at. But it's fascinating stuff as far as
so it sounds to me like you've got from an early age, he's experienced some sort of trauma that created a state of disassociation, and then he's experiencing demonic possession or demonic oppression, and the medical industry dismisses it as a chemical brain and whatever, just he's broken. There's just something wrong with him. It's like, man, always
for the audience that's all gonna listen to, that doesn't want to hear about this, like about demonic oppression and possession. I've been struggling with this idea myself, that like, if we do have these technologies that work in the same way as demonic possession or oppression, like, who's to tell the difference at this point? But I do think that the technology is the same. I think that people who are inhabited by demons, let's say in the day of Jesus, they're able to inhabit a certain frequency in someone's brain. And I don't know if they can control their thoughts, but they can definitely invade. And now you just have somebody from the CIA that's like, hey man, do this. It's like, there is no difference in the technique. I guess that maybe the messenger, but who's who's like asking this messenger to do that, that's a different question.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. This is
we have to get comfortable with that idea.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I think that I remember in the Manchurian, Sinatra's character says that their magic is more powerful than my magic. And I thought that was interesting, especially considering the idea that, you know, you're fundamentally engaging in dark magic at a certain level, you know, and I think that that's very interesting as far as how much they attempted to kind of, he believed that he could pull out Raymond out of the programming. You know, he thought that I could, remember he brings a stacked deck of nothing but queen of diamonds, and he tries to break him out of the layers of programming and reprogram him in a certain way, but also tell him you're free now. And he did not disrupt the actual you know, pre-programming that had taken place. He just kind of provided him with a set of instructions for a brief moment, but it could easily be undone. And I think that's what people don't realize is that there are layers to the trigger mechanisms that I didn't understand existed. And this is what they claim. Dr. Robert Duncan, that Harvard professor who he claimed that he interviewed, like, it was such a staggering number of individuals claiming that they were members of a modern Manchurian program. And it's fascinating to me because this guy is a Harvard graduate. He wrote the book Project Soul Catcher: Secrets of Cyber and Cybernetics Warfare Revealed. And it's a very high level book as far as some of the technological descriptions and details. It's a little above my intelligence level as far as some of the I think you have to be a little bit more kind of engaged in the industry itself to understand some of it, because it is interesting as far as how much cybernetics play a role in modern day. But he says he personally interviewed more than 650 people. He says this in 2012, the same year that James Holmes and Aurora and Sandy Hook happened. And when did the Boston Marathon bombing happen?
That was afterwards, a good deal after that, right? 20. I was gonna say 2016. I'm not sure.
No, 2014.
2014.
Let's see. So. We'll look at it.
So. Hey, would you be? Is it okay if I go take a piss real quick? I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it, dude. Go for it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Actually, this would be a good time to Nancy, say hello.
Oh, Nancy's here.
Nancy
yes,
dropped
I saw her
in,
when she popped in. I was like, we have to kick the pores out now for
we
sure.
Do have to. Hi, Nancy. Oh, we haven't brought her on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. We got to bring her on stage. She unmuted her mic and made no noise.
Okay,
say hello to the
ahead,
people, Nancy.
2013.
2013.
Oh,
Thank you.
very nice. She's like, I don't have time for hellos.
Hi.
I'm doing all business. There we go. It's good to hear you, Nancy. Are you doing all right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That's
good.
about enough from Nancy.
That's enough from Nancy.
This episode is
it's brought to you by MKULTRA.
It's deeper than every time he comes on. We reach a new level of seriousness that I didn't think was possible before.
Yeah. It's all you know. I was watching that Sam Hyde clip, and Sam is saying in one of the clips, buy a gun. Buy a gun. Don't say things on the internet like around and find out. Don't, engage in this thing where you're calling people Karens and stuff. Don't go and meet up, but buy a gun and protect your loved ones. And I'm like, I try not to be alarmist and hyperbolic, even though that sounds like, maybe some people would listen to our show and be like, that's certainly not true. But I'm always going to tell you, don't go to a meetup. Mm-hmm. Don't go to a White Lives Matter rally. Don't do this sort of thing. Don't mobilize. Austin's back. But it is very hard for me to say, as a guy who carries everywhere I go, it is very hard for me to say that there's anything wrong with that message. It's just it's a little jarring to hear that message and to see it spreading in virality and to use that as a gauge of where we are.
Well, it's because there's like as Austin's describing what I think is the actual battle, but there still has been there's been multiple micro battles that they've laid out in front of you. This is a big one.
It's a big one.
Whether it's true or not, the idea of the shooter or the adjacent shooter is moving forward, and the divide between the left and the right is moving forward. There's nothing
almost fully parted now.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. We can actually like debunk this and say if somebody was the actual killer, or listen, this guy could have very well been the actual killer, but it
almost doesn't matter because you can't these kids.
Yeah, then we have to get into the discussion of mind control techniques and who's behind that, and you will never find that out. There is no reliable way to know that.
And then good luck even spreading that information if you did figure it out.
Right.
Spread that information, beat the cultural wave that's coming. I don't think you can. What do you think about that, Austin? When watching Sam Hyde and he's saying, and I know you're in California, get a gun. Don't engage in this kind of rhetoric on the internet, like, FAFO, like around and find out. Don't engage in the calling people Karens or any of this stuff, but get a gun and protect your loved ones. It was really like the core of what he was saying over and over again.
It's interesting as well. I think the day of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Florida passes, or they finally
open
like
carry.
They don't pass.
They deemed the ban unconstitutional.
Yes, that same day. So I'm like, it's like there's multiple things going on. It's almost like the rest of the nation is going to call for gun control, and they're like, it's a signal like, hey, Florida is a place where we want this group of people to go. I'm like, what the?
Which, by the way, I highly recommend do not open carry, because it's just silly to ever.
I've been warning David against that. It's
you just don't want people to know what you have.
It's an invitation for trouble. Although I appreciate the gesture of the state doing it.
Yeah, I think it's a win ultimately, but. We watched on Timeline Cleanse one time, this guy, he's in a bodega, and he's a white dude, and he's got his gun, it's like in his pocket, and long story short, a couple black dudes snuck up behind him, pulled it out of his pocket. He starts getting in a back and forth. They left, and he goes to pursue them. I would have left out the back door and said, it looks like I lost my gun. But he pursued them. They shot and killed him with his own gun. Don't show people what you have. I lived in Las Vegas where open carry was permitted, and it was a weird vibe. It was a really weird vibe. I remember going to Walmart. There was a girl with pink hair and a girl with teal hair. They were lesbians, and they were dressed in black and in tactical gear with their guns on their hips and with combat boots. Like they were each like the goth Laura Croft. And I'm going, what is this? What is this? You're just shopping casually in Walmart, and you're dressed like video game characters. It was very strange.
Open carry works in a society that's not pharmaceutically driven, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. But what do you think about that message from Sam Hyde? Not just the validity of doing those things, but also its virality, the way that it's resonating with people, culturally speaking.
I think it's only going to, have some serious impact on kind of, I think, influencing the escalation of the culture war itself, and this sort of in my mind, it is, I think the political divisiveness is definitely sort of the desired result, right? Political violence to be at an all-time high is what they hope we interpret from this, and it is somewhat accurate, right, as far as I'm concerned. But you go back and throughout the course of history, and there's been a lot of political violence over the years, obviously, right? And we're all kind of, prisoners of the moment and prisoners of our own experience, and inherently we're all just waking up, like in The Big Lebowski, when he's like telling Donnie, you're like a child who wandered into the middle of a movie theater. It's like you're trying to figure out the plot, and I think most people have essentially missed the boat, more often than not. And that is also structured strategically to kind of like socially engineer us into that place. And so I view it all as yes, obviously protect your family. Yeah, get a gun. Definitely. I think you need to have the defense mechanism and the tools in place to at least in some sort of emergency situation, you have what it takes to defend your family and yourself. But as far as like, this viral concept of, this is literally the idea of we're at war. This is what they're saying. Like we're at war at home.
That's the sentiment.
Domestically. And that
Producer
is the
Nancy
built-in.
wants to know if we should invest in a cell phone gun.
Oh,
or
I would
if
like a
that's
cell
just
phone gun.
Is that just a conspiracy theory?
No, I like. I mean, the cell phone gun is real. The cell phone and like credit card shaped guns, the little rectangular ones, they're real.
It's just all too much. We've been bukkakied with psyop, but sorry to distract from what you're saying. Like,
Bukkake.
we are headed towards something. Continue.
Yeah. This is going to become. I think the crescendo is happening, but like I'm just curious because I always see that the legislative impact, right? Because clearly there was a instantly you had a kind of reaction to this, and I believe it was Anna Paulina Luna went on Benny Johnson, right? One of the
That
usual.
bitch. I don't trust that bitch.
She's a former prostitute. No, former stripper. My bad. My bad.
Wow. Hey, dude, geez, please, not a lady of the night. We're talking a performer, a dancer, an artist. Relax.
My bad. My bad.
Jeez.
But I will say that like instantly the Pentagon bans is banned from boycotting Israel, right? And then you have a bill that is pushed to revoke citizenship for criticizing Israel, which I found insane. And that was
so crazy.
That was promoted by Lauren Boebert after she got done jacking off some dude in the theater.
Boebert and her stupid tits.
She went directly to the dude. She went directly to the Senate and or the House. So I can't remember. What is she? She's a representative of some kind.
She's a lady of the night.
It was the House, yeah. So she goes to the House and she essentially proposes this bill barring federal contractors from boycotting Israel, and so again, you know, this is clearly some sort of a pretext, right, for just implementing more landmark legislation, which will effectively, you know, push us more in that sort of dystopian direction. And then there's an approval of a major spending increase, and Israel gets another $650 million, and Marco Rubio goes and bends the knee and kisses the wall, all during the humiliation ritual that is Charlie Kirk's wife. I don't know what she's up to. I'm very skeptical of this entire situation. I'm not trying to condemn her. And no, I don't know these people. I feel very bad that any political violence, obviously, at the very least, I think it solves nothing. And it only, certainly, in my mind, at every level, it will only achieve the worst possible and consequential outcome in terms of the state. But I do think that it's important to seriously question every single detail of this, because from every level we've been getting, you know, these statements.
Bukkakied.
Yeah, and the statements
let me just set the stage a little bit. I want to get into this whole thing. We only have a little bit of time left. You know, the whole thing is strange. There's all this speculation as to whether or not Charlie has actually been shot, right? We've seen all kinds of different angles, all kinds of different explanations. There's a pack under his shirt. There's this and that. She's holding his hand. She's shooting this video with his body, with his corpse at this wake, at this funeral. His hands look like plastic. I have been around. I've had loved ones who.
That's how dead people's hands.
That's what I'm saying. I have been around dead people. Their hands look, you know, they look.
So there's a lot of like stupidity. There's well, Charlie Kirk has been replaced, and then they put a picture of AI Charlie Kirk next to a picture of Charlie Kirk, and they go, his teeth are different. I go, well, this is just AI enhanced. They're talking about, well, his button was, I don't know, the button was not done in his casket. His hands are, this is the hands of a dummy. It's like these are the hands of a person who, when their blood is drained out of them, the morgue
has to
puts
paint
makeup on their
them,
hands, and they paint their nails. So that way they have
She's
a
got
human appearance.
A G on her thing. It's a Masonic G on her thing.
Her parents, these are like legitimate things. Her parents are involved in some weird stuff. She has Jesuit ties.
Yes. Yeah, DOD contracts with the Department of Energy as well. I didn't realize that.
The DOD, that's weird.
But here's what strikes me, that I guess that, you know, because like the conspiracy theories just like missed this. It was like, listen, there's sympathy to be had. This guy died. She lost her husband, the father of her children. Yes, sure, all of these things. The video of her crying over her husband's body is not. It's unusual.
A little distasteful, maybe.
Right. Okay, but here's the reality, though. before these people post anything, this goes through a filter of like 4 or 5 PR agents. They are master marketers. Yes, it was. I mean, clearly she was told to do it, or maybe she did it on their own, and then it was reviewed, and they thought that this is great for whatever reason. You have to ask yourself why we're seeing it. If you want to look at the G on the ring, okay, fine. If you want to look at the dead hands, okay, fine. But why are we seeing this in general? And it's to stoke tensions more. There's an agenda that's being pushed. She gives a fiery message from his pot. Like if I died and my wife was in this studio here giving a message, I'd ask every single one of you to say, what the is going on right now? Why is she doing that?
Play in his death, right? That's the first.
Well, that's it. People, but then the other thing is like people are like, oh, she's giving this fiery speech. She seems like she's full of hatred. I'm also like, well, I think my wife would probably be pretty mad.
True.
Would your wife give a speech in your chair?
I have no idea. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. It's strange.
About obviously 33 hours into the manhunt, and then you get more numerology on top of that. That to me makes it far more compelling, right? Is the 666 being the date between him founding the Charlie Kirk show, July 7th, 2019, to Wednesday, September 10th, the day he's assassinated. 6 years, 66 days.
Whoa.
Let's put one to bed. Do you think he was shot and killed?
I do. Yeah, I do right now, but I definitely am open to the idea. I think it's very, very possible to, you already know, as far as hyper reality filmmaking that I've spoken on in terms of the Boston Marathon bombing, that's entirely possible. And another reason why I think they already had pre-filmed, I think that the assassination attempt on Trump was pre-filmed. Honestly, I think it was all sort of already organized, and this was a major theatrical event that took place.
Some of those like inconsistencies with the sky and the cloud coverage and like all kinds of weird. That whole thing was bizarre.
You ever seen the inauguration of Joe Biden?
Yeah, that was weird too.
There's like a weird cut scene where like it does like this crossfade. And Hunter Biden in the first scene has stepped off the stage, and in the second scene he's back on this stage, but he's on the wrong side.
But there's not supposed to be a time elapse. This is supposed to be.
No, it's alive. It's a live shot. So like, yeah, this was not live. It really gets you. I think he's dead. I think Charlie Kirk has died, but we're living in this reality of like post persuasion.
You know what? The
AI,
only reason
crazy.
The only reason I really think Charlie Kirk is dead though is because of the way that it felt in my gut. Like I'm all gut. What I used to say on Timeline Cleanse, guts, nuts, and retard stuff. Like I'm not this date rememberer, but I have like pretty good discernment that seems to steer me one way or another. The way that felt was like it felt like I watched a dude die, and it felt sad and it felt heavy, and so. But honestly, that's all I got going for me as far as certainty that he's dead.
But then there's also that video. I know Sam shared it. There's a guy, it looks like he's in a subway station or something, and he's wearing the American Comeback Tour, and he's saying what he saw, and his friends just bum rush him.
What is that?
Aggressive, dude. I have aggressive. The clip too. I can show you if you guys want.
Yes,
yeah, I've seen like a brief moment of it. I've kind of been removed from this situation because I'm waiting for the fog of war to settle.
Right.
This is crazy. Okay, so Shadow of Ezra, an eyewitness to Charlie Kirk's murder, was cut off mid-account as people rushed in, grabbed him, and quickly silenced him before he could share the rest of what he saw. All right, yeah, let's let her rip.
Okay. I was standing from probably the third row in the bottom. I heard the shot ring out. I looked to my left, and then I looked over to my right. I saw him slump over in his chair forward. He slumped over. He had blood coming from the left side of his neck down his shirt, and he slumped over and he was carried off. Get off me.
What the?
It's crazy, right?
Running high right now.
Interesting. I definitely think that hold on, there was one other thing I had to show you guys.
Hold on, go ahead. Let's let her rip.
I'm looking for the crazy picture real quick.
That is just a crazy one right there.
There it is. Oh, dude, we got the roommate's photo finally.
That's not even mildly convincing. Is that real?
No, look at
Shitty.
City man. City. Communist
I love
too.
it.
Like, guys, I know. I'm sorry.
Look at how well his face fits. It's so
Is that
weird
up?
how well he's the most memed dude in the world. I
Gotta be
think.
careful
maybe,
with
possibly.
that. We mean people in the presidencies. That's a
That's true. Yeah, man. I don't know what to make of that because so far what he had said there was nothing that like, wait, what was that? You know, but we said it on the show when we watched it live during these early moments. It's like there's a fog of war thing where you can't make heads or tails of things, but then hindsight will show you some of those early videos that pop up are some of the most important ones to contradicting the official narrative. And I don't know what to make of that one. It could just be some friends being like, yo, it's probably not a good idea. Like, you don't want to be associated with talking about this.
Why
type
are they
of deal.
all wearing a shirt as if they were working there?
Right.
Or
Yeah,
did they just buy that shirt?
They were super big fans.
My only
of-
devil's advocate point to that was potentially maybe in the moment you're hearing the descriptive nature of the explanation of what took place and it's fresh in everyone's memory and you're aggressively sort of like pushing back on because
weird,
you're
though, because, like
an
you're being interviewed
over-emotional-
about it.
Yeah, true. But I was just thinking like individuals around were over emotional at the moment. And so they were like aggressively reacting, trying to make it stop. Like that's my only context that I was thinking just to potentially justify that strange interaction. But because he wasn't necessarily saying anything new yet. But of course, they cut him off before he could potentially do that. But still, I was just wondering like as a way to explain it away in my own mind. But still, I did find it definitely strange. But
The question is like who was he speaking with? Like if I saw, let's say I saw Austin and we were in this sort of situation and Austin is giving an interview to Hassan Piker but didn't recognize it, I might be like, yo, let's get out of here, dude. And you'd be like, yo, I'm talking. I'm like, no, trust me, not this guy. That's really I could understand. But so who is the interviewer? I don't think it was really anybody of prominence to react that way. It's strange.
It is weird too for him to be like, get off me, like to his homies, like,
Yeah.
damn, dude, like this is a heated situation.
did you
I don't
see
know,
Cash Patel?
Dude, what
Basically,
Cash Patel says, what? I'll see you in Valhalla, which is like the whole thing is like, what sense does this make? He's not, you know, a Viking. He's not a Norse mythology enjoyer. Neither are you, Cash Patel. You come from, you know, the Vedic. The whole thing makes no sense. And then there was another thing. Oh, all of the Haka dance, whatever the Haka thing that was performed for Charlie Kirk. So I made a joke about it. I said, yeah, pagan demonic possession dance done for, you know, dead Christian. Like it doesn't make any sense. The whole what exactly did Cash Patel say?
oh, well, I found this interesting because, well, clearly he did come out this morning, by the way. I found this interesting. There's like a 3-minute video of him talking. Well, not him, but the report basically about this DNA evidence that was found at the Charlie Kirk crime scene links the suspect to the shooting. Of course, this is after he's in custody. And I think it's very convenient for that to have taken place because you can, in my mind, all you have to do is at this point, they planted the gun in the first place in the bush. Are you kidding me? Like I still, how can you explain away the fact that there was no gun in that floppy bag that the dude is holding when he jumps off the roof? And beyond that, it looks as if, in my mind, what you would do is leave the gun anyway if you're an actual operative, because that's what they would have the individuals in place to do and facilitate the cover up, obviously. So you would already have that covered in my mind. And so it would have effectively just been left at the murder site, right? At
Well, there's
the
a couple of
actual
things there, right, Austin?
Mhm.
Number one, there are reports of a drone being in the area, so should have seen him. They probably did. They left him. But in the report that Cash Patel announced this morning, they found DNA on the gun and from the perch or the nest that he was shooting from. And then they said they found it on a screwdriver. So now what they're implying is that he takes the shot, he disassembles the gun somewhere in the vicinity. That's why when we see on the camera him going away, there's just like a bag or something. There is no gun on him. Then he goes to a spot, reassembles the gun, and then wraps it in a towel and leaves. It's like, yeah, I mean, if it makes sense to you, I guess. But that's like I appreciate the detail of, well, there was, there was a screwdriver there on the roof. Well, also, if they found, did they say they find the screwdriver on the roof?
Yeah, I believe they did. Let me pull it because I
The
have
fuck did
it
he
right
put the
here.
gun back together with then?
Exactly. And
I don't know,
and
man.
that was the first thing that I thought as well. And yeah, what does it say? DNA on a towel wrapped around a rifle found near where conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated matched that of 22-year-old accused in the killing. This is what he claims yesterday. Today. Sorry. Investigators also have used DNA evidence to link the suspect, Tyler Robinson, with the screwdriver recovered from the rooftop where the fatal shot was fired. So yes, that is what they're claiming.
I guess he put it back. Sometimes you can take a screw and use your finger.
If you push really hard,
yeah,
it'll kind of like your finger will sink into the grooves.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can.
So,
all right.
My God, that is so strange. And when you look at and by the way, dude. Well, first, just on the gun itself, I thought it was interesting as far as like the bullet has not been recovered, right? And so you have this like breakdown in the chain of custody as far as like the ballistic evidence is concerned, right? And I think that
I thought they found the bullet and it had like.
Was the casing. That was a fired
casing. And what did it say? Like, I used to have a dick, but now I have a vagina.
Also, let me ask you something. On the casing of a bullet, not like the magazine. So like this,
right? Yeah.
Did they have pictures of that?
No, that's the problem.
I would love to see pictures of that because it was like messaging.
You wouldn't
like, what does that mean?
You wouldn't engrave a bullet. I wouldn't engrave a bullet. Like,
what if you had a mussy?
No. I mean, like if you want the bullet to work correct ballistically from 200 yards, you're not going to engrave it. Like you would engrave your magazine or the gun itself. It just that doesn't make any sense. And they're engraving it with a ideological.
I want to know what that ideological message is.
It said like it's written, but I haven't seen the pictures. Like OWO and whatever, like weird like that.
Notices bulges OWO, which was
notices bulges OWO. So I thought
this?
OWO was like an anime kid thing.
Oh. Apparently, it's a way to that phrase specifically is apparently recycled as a troll against, which I didn't realize that apparently that is, it's basically like we see your dick, dude, and which is, I mean it's exactly what it is, but yeah, it was that, and then I think there was also "Hey fascist, catch" was one of them, but then there was an Italian phrase. I'm trying to remember what it was. Really, it's interesting. Ciao Bello, right. I think.
Why is that? Why is that associated? I thought that was just a classic like Italian song.
Yeah,
Bella, ciao, Bella, ciao, Bella, ciao, ciao, ciao. That's got something to do with trannies. I'm so confused. I'm so out of the loop. I need an update on tranny lore.
I know it's very interesting to actually see the interesting phrases that were written on Robert Westman's gun, or at least his cache of weapons as well. But yeah, here it is. So the roommates had shared communications from a contact named Tyler on Discord. Now, Discord themselves, as an organization or a company, came out and rejected all of this as being the case. They said no, they actually identified the account itself, and it was just an account by the name of Tyler. But these conversations did not happen on Discord. And, who knows, maybe they're just, I can't imagine they could make such an unequivocal, statement without having any sort of consequential nature attached to it if they were proven to be lying, but still. So allegedly this is the case. And again, I think it is important that Discord obviously came out and rejected this happened, but still, the authorities allege that, and this is all third-party information from a roommate, which I think is interesting. And it seems like a lot of that is happening, where you're getting like anonymous authorities, right, or just some authority tied to the investigation, but they won't actually disclose who it was. And then you'll have another federal ATF agent that doesn't go on the record with his name either, and he'll counter that claim and say that no, that technically wasn't the case as far as the connection to the phrasings on the casings. They tried to reject that as well, which I found interesting. As far as there was an ATF official who told, I believe it was the New York Post, who essentially said no, that has not been confirmed yet, as far as that language being written on the cash or on the casings. But then obviously it proceeds to come out that technically it is true as far as the FBI is concerned. So we're getting a lot of
the FBI has confirmed
that the
language
also multiple casings, because I only heard one shot.
That's true. Yeah. So multiple casings now.
So inscriptions on a fired casing, that was the one that read "Notices bulges OWO, what's this?" And then there was inscriptions on 3 unfired casings that read "Hey fascist, catch." And then it also was the Ciao Bella, or Bella Ciao, or whatever it was, that was, and apparently that specifically was supposed to be kind of like evoking this anti-fascist sentiment of like the individuals in Italy fighting back against the Nazis, right? That's allegedly supposed to be why, or the motive for utilizing that phrase. So I found that,
meaning that's a callback, because that was a song that used to be. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. The context of the song now, because it's like a dude saying goodbye to his, because he's going to go fight the Nazis. Maybe I trust the audience, and they're saying that this has a lot to do with furries, which is why it's very hard to understand, because now the furries are integrated with and the anti-fascist furries are standing up against Charlie Kirk. It's a lot, man.
Of convolution.
Oh my God.
If you see this though, because there's an individual who's alleged to have been, I believe, the roommate, at least, Lance Twiggs, 22 years old, resided at the same address of where Tyler Robinson lived. He's an alleged relative of at least an alleged relative of Twiggs, of Lance Twiggs, this 22-year-old, confirmed to the New York Post that yes, they were roommates allegedly. And so basically the claim is that Twiggs was a black sheep of the family. But in reality, you go through this and it looks as if there's this interesting connection that caught my eye more than anything. So the family member said that she knew Twiggs was brought in for questioning by police, and that essentially Twiggs was transitioning to become a woman, right? And was, but they declined to speculate on the romantic relationship between the two, Tyler and this Lance Twiggs. And so, and the picture of this individual is interesting as well. Definitely, you could see, I guess, it's a little bit of like the what's it called when you're almost an in-between gender, right? I forget the terminology. Yeah, thank you.
Well, they have this picture of this guy, the alleged shooter, but then they have the picture of the guy who's like got the hat and the glasses that they catch, on, and it doesn't look like the same guy. The faces that this looks like this. Lance Twiggs has been identified as the roommate of Tyler Robinson.
There's some other things going on here as well. I hear conflicting reports where, all right, the parents.
By the way, he's wearing like furry stuff. I guess the furry thing is part of it.
It's
like claim that Tyler had it. But then it was this is interesting because you have witnesses and individuals who were allegedly questioned, and so no one was apparently frequenting this 1,800 per month townhouse that they were believed to have been living in leading up to the event. Although there was an interesting claim by, I believe it was a neighbor, who said that essentially there were all of these. Neighbor claimed that several people, and this is 2 weeks ago, prior to the event, were driving cars with out-of-state plates, were seen going in and out, and quote, they did not give off a good vibe, the neighbor said. And so in my mind, I'm considering the idea of like, I go back to the Manchurian. What did you have to do? They had to actually, after sending Raymond back to the States to become the useful, violent, murderous tool that they would hope to greenlight in the targeted assassination attempt. Well, they needed to make sure his programming was fresh. Now that's interesting to me because there seems to be a shelf life with mind control, behavioral modification programming, and to where I had even read that certain Green Berets who had gone through certain behavioral modification experiments as a part of their special forces training were also intended to become useful assets domestically once they allegedly were either sheep dipped out of the service or were technically already had served their term in the service and had now, of course, retired to civilian life. Well, they could still green light go these operations utilizing various, assets that had gone through this experimentation programming. But the interesting aspect of it was that they would have to have some avenue to re-engage with this asset throughout the course of this time that you would hope to still leverage the programming to your benefit. And so it was interesting because it seemed as if Randy Weaver was implicated as being one of the Green Berets who was waking up to his prior programming, and that essentially the reason that they prioritized Vicky Weaver was because she was the individual responsible for him coming out of his hypno program trance and his set of at least the set of instructions that had been essentially provided to him while he was being experimented upon. And so that was why they allegedly prioritized Vicky as the target, not only because she was the head of the family and she had more influence than Randy in the home, but because and she was kind of like the spiritual leader of the family as well, obviously. But they claimed that she was waking him up to his MKUltra programming. I thought that was interesting, and it fits perfectly with what they did with Raymond when they had him act as if they made the false narrative around him that he got struck while he was jogging by a vehicle. And so he was forced into this sort of crisis situation where he had to go through surgery, right? But in reality, it was just a false narrative in order to, provide a cover story for them re-engaging his programming to see exactly where he's at and reinforcing it as well. And the same reason as like why Sirhan was writing in the journal, right? RFK must die. RFK must be killed. RFK, right, must be assassinated. And you're like, no, he's reinforcing his programming while he's in a hypnotic trance. Like that's what he's doing. The same thing that happened when he sees targets in front of his eyes in the pantry in the Ambassador Hotel and he thinks he's at the shooting range. It's the same situation. And he's pulling an imaginary trigger as they tackle him to the ground and he can't stop, right? It's uncontrollable. Same thing when they put him in the hypnotic trance in the trial. The same exact thing. RFK's in the pantry now, Sirhan, and he just goes, and he's like pulling this trigger and having like convulsions, man. And it's very strange. But again, it's what did they do with Raymond? They said, okay, we're going to have him, he's going to have to kill someone. So we know that he's still active as far as his programming still reliable enough. And so we're going to actually have him activate and green light go. We'll have him just kind of someone as a test. And so what does he do? He goes out and he strategically kills his boss, right? Where they take out this prominent media news publication, right? Where he's simultaneously eliminating a dissenting voice, right? For the side that the cabal that technically this media mogul is certainly a thorn in the side of the power cabal that he's working on behalf of, obviously. And so I just found it very interesting that it served mutual purpose, as far as like a dual purpose in a way. And to me, it always goes back to they need to reinforce the level of programming. So therefore you would need to have another avenue of sort of access the asset. And this would be the reason why you have these unmarked cars with the strange out of state license plates showing up to the residence leading up to the event. And then also, if you look at the fact I saw William post about Tyler Robinson was captured on surveillance footage appearing to make a phone call just moments before climbing onto the roof, suggesting he may have been in contact with someone as the events unfolded. And so in my mind,
that tone through the phone type of deal.
Dude, that's it. It's literally the call into Raymond in the Manchurian Candidate when they say, "Is this Raymond Shaw?" He says, "Yes, this is Raymond. You should pass the time by playing a little solitaire." Boom. He's in the first layer of suggestibility of programming, right? And then all he does, as soon as he sees the Queen of Diamonds, the second layer is triggered. And his true suggestibility can be sort of leveraged. And I think that's fascinating to understand as far as right the way I think, as I mentioned before, we don't have as firm a grip on free will as we might think we do, you know. And
Yeah.
and imagine being programmed subliminally I'm sorry, talking too fast, dude. But imagine when you're sort of sleeping, you're being subliminally programmed or programmed with subliminals, right? And essentially kept in a dissociative state during your sleep. That's what they
Yeah.
claim. It can effectively happen by just individual operators pulling up outside of your house and clicking an electromagnetic, frequency to effectively, infiltrate your residence and your psychological state of mind as well. And I think that any and all of us could be prioritized and deliberately targeted. And anyway, beyond that, man, there's just so many additional layers to this. Like, it looks like this kid was potentially hanging around junior ROTC, which is very strange. So again, you have a Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps where he's hanging around with these students that were involved with this military program, but there's no clear connection there's no evidence proving that he himself was a member. But again, it's like, this is the modern strategy of tension. This is Operation Gladio all day long, utilizing very strategic tactics of destabilization. And I think that you see it even in Canada, because I saw a report coming out that some school teacher had forcefully shown the footage of Charlie Kirk being assassinated to her children, to the students that were like under 10 years old, dude. Some of them were 5 and 6. Yeah.
Telling them that he deserved it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Whoa.
Mhm. It's nuts. And you see all the examples like that sort of anti-ICE protester in LA, right? He's like a fresh 18-year-old or something. I don't know how old he is, but he's a moron, and he's just a useful retard. And he's out there with a bullhorn screaming, we got Charlie in the neck, right? And it's just like, this is, legitimately, I don't know how much of it is sort of astroturfed, where it's it's being.
I mean, I can tell you just by looking at like Facebook and seeing people that I used to know who are all out loud celebrating his death. I don't even know if you have to astroturf this one, but I'm sure they don't miss an opportunity to.
A story that I've told on the show a bunch of times. Actually, you should ask Jose about it. That girl Eliza Blue was in the middle of this gang stalking kind of affair regarding what she had said about child trafficking, or what she had said about her being raped. And it turns out that she either lied or wasn't telling the complete truth. But this started like a complete storm on the internet, and it turned into a campaign against her where she was targeted by a lot of people for lying. But then eventually it snowballs into who knows what. It is just insanity. And I'm watching it from the side because I know her, and I think she's lying, but I also think she's not a bad person. So I'm gonna keep my opinion to myself. And I'm watching people attack her viciously. And then one day it just like turns off just like that. But there's about 20% of the people that were piling onto her that are real, in my opinion. And they're still going, but then they'll be like, they like look left and right. They go, hey, where's my engagement? Where is my, like, I was getting thousands of likes on this, and like now it's gone. It's like, we just watched an op. And the only person that called it out was like Shane Cashman. He wrote a piece about it when they wanted him to tear her apart. He was like, no, we're looking at something different here. It was a strange operation. I don't know what to make of it. But
it's like a test run.
It was a test run of like, can we create an inorganic movement against some online figure for a random reason? Can I galvanize a certain percentage of people to follow me in lockstep if I use their dopamine receptors? And this is not even at the time when X was paying out. This is just pure likes and shares. That's all that it was. And it's like, yeah, you can do that. And these people will go with you, and they'll be indifferent. Like, you will not be able to differentiate between them and bots. And they did that effectively. They turned it off, and then it was just gone. And everyone's left wondering what happened. People are still mad at her for whatever. But if you're paying attention, the question that you should be asking yourself is, what was that? Why did that happen? And why did it stop like that? And there's no adequate answers.
It stopped because they got enough data and they said, okay, this is going to work.
Yeah, so okay, we can do that.
And so they probably spent a while fleshing out bot accounts.
Then you do it on a larger level. Let's say with an assassination of a prominent conservative character, and then you look at Facebook. All it takes is like, I mean, the minimal amount of bots that you would need to really push this movement to get these people moving. Not much.
I don't even know if you need it though, because these people are doing it to the tune of 6 likes.
That's what I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah. They've like mastered it so much so where they can scale back the bot activity, because there certainly probably is activity bots on the left and the right that are pushing a narrative, but it becomes so minimal because the reaction to this is so visceral, where they've gotten them. It seems like they've gotten the information of how to do this, and now free range MKUltra chickens, and they just say, go ahead. Like they already know what's going on. And
M. Lauren, she said before in the chat, it was a while ago, but she said, does anybody else feel like we're never going to know the truth on this one? And this feels like a JFK level operation, not in the sense that Charlie Kirk was at all JFK, but in the sense that they have so many things in place that all went off simultaneously that people can and will spend the next, 5 decades unpacking it and debating who was the actual shooter. And I think that's why
we didn't even talk about the hand signals.
There's so many. I mean, dude, we're only 5 days off now, and we've got this much. You know how much we're gonna have by the end of a 30-day period? And it's like kind of the reason that I haven't been engaging with it is because I can't zero in on which aspect to engage in.
Yeah, all I'm saying online, all I'm saying personally is the people who say that it's not Israel. Like, hey, buckle up, baby, because we have no clue who you're very comfortable saying. You're comfortable saying you know who it is because the guy who told you Epstein didn't do it pointed at something. It's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, but I'm like, no, we're keeping our options open, and we'll probably never know.
No, but I don't think the point is to know. I think they've done a thing. It's pretty masterful. The thing that we should be focusing on is how are we going to navigate the fallout? And I don't want, like I said, don't want to be alarmist, but I think that Sam Hyde clip was correct, not just in the aspect of getting guns, but it's like you should maybe take it a little bit more seriously, especially depending on where you live. I know we have listeners of this show that are in like these city areas and everything. And it's like, maybe just think a little bit. I'm not asking you to definitely don't mobilize, don't go out and do anything, but it's like, think a little bit. What if some popped off? Where would you go? What would you do? Do you have things to be ready with? Because it just feels like it's pretty obvious at this point they would nut over a full-scale civil war thing. These high population centers that are having these protests, they would love to infiltrate them, turn them violent, agent provocateur. They'd love to have sort of a Black Lives Matter situation on the other side.
This is what it feels. I'm gonna let Austin go because I know he's got something to say, but I've got 2 kids, and what they do to me, it's a lot of fun. One will make a mess, and then I'll go and pick that up, and while I'm picking it up, the other one will make a mess.
These two are Hegelian dialecticing you.
I'm still not done cleaning up that mess, and I'm already looking at this one that I've got to clean up now. And as I go to move towards the other one, the initial one that made a mess has made another mess. So now that I feel like that's what we're in, but like in like this political socio-economic climate where it's just like one thing at a time. And I think Sam is like, people will look at him and say, oh, you're missing the bigger picture. Sure. But this is important because that's being put right in front of you. This is the big mess that they've spilled on you. So he's kind of like, all right, like deal with this really quickly, or just deal with this as good as possible, because what do? They've just spilled like five glasses, and they're like, okay,
that's it, dude.
Now what?
And you're like, post, and the post was like, I forgot how the post went, but it was kind of saying like, I said when it's hard to speak the truth, speak it. When it's hard to show restraint, restrain yourself. Then I did this other thing, but I ended it by saying, when they say they've found the enemy, look inward. Because a lot of this is about to be like identifying the obvious enemies across all fronts. And then the next logical step is like, and Autobots roll out. You know what I mean? And it's like, maybe look at yourself. And when I say inward, I don't mean just like in the Christian way of deal with the sin that's in your own heart. I mean inward at yourself and your family unit and those type of things. Don't go out and fight a war that they've been laying out for you to go and fight. figure out how to navigate your own personal life and your own loved ones and your own immediate family, and how to get them through this big ass mess that's coming. Because everything is it's like, look left, look right, look forward, step back, go. And they're just puppeteering you everywhere. Z-Man says, is Raven referencing the Owen Benjamin inner Jew? It's a great way of looking at it. It's like, instead of mobilizing against the, which I think is also an ultimate kind of goal, Brian of Demon Erasers was talking about the rabbinic who have a prophecy that, the Goyim are going to rise up against the and all these different things. And if you look at the Bible, but it's like, before you go out and persecute for the things that they've done, kill the Jew in your own heart. I think that's a great, it's a great analogy by
clean your room.
Clean your room.
It's a better analogy.
Go
ahead,
clean the
Austin.
Jew out of your room.
Well, I just think it's hilarious that the narrative that has formed, it checks every box, right? So it's either the Nick Fuentes Groyper crowd, or it's the Israel obviously is responsible, or it's the gun violence movement is entirely responsible. And at every level, I think we're not prioritizing what this root cause is, and I think that's why I'm always kind of frustrated. I feel like I'm on the outside looking in at a certain level, but I'm blessed at that same for the exact same reason. I feel so grateful for that. And I think that I inherently bucked the public school system. Just the trends never affected me at that level, although I will say I fell into the trap of worshiping at the feet of celebrities and the celebrity class for a short time, and trying to recreate my own identity in the mirror image of people who I kind of worshipped in a way, right? And held on these strange pedestals that are always undeserving, and I think that once you find a way, as you said, to look within and reflect, right, as far as the internal, because I think the internal process is what matters most. That's the reason why I actually appreciate the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, is because I actually appreciated it for the reason that it's a war being waged from within. And the sword of Damocles that hangs over is essentially, you have to face yourself before you can face the outside world. And I think that's so strong. That's just a strong message that you could attempt to at least apply in your own life. And I'm not saying it's the only route to understanding and appreciating that concept is through that theological text. But I do think it's interesting as hell, and I appreciate the sort of strange window and perspective it gives. And another reason why I just think, we have dragons to slay within the concept of our own minds and hearts. And I think until we slay those dragons, be very careful with giving other people any sort of advice. I'll give you that much, right? And I never try and say that I have the answers, because I'm just trying to, make sense of this for my own well-being. Try to have some sort of way to at least to one, compartmentalize things in my own mind, but two, to also kind of like find a sort of just psychological, coherent, comprehensive structure of what I think is happening. And it's always evolving, obviously, but I mean, when you see these, the reason why I think pattern recognition is a superpower is because we just see these ridiculous resurfacing tactics that, in my mind, provide smoking guns many times, right? As far as, at the very least, it should raise red flags. And even as far as like, just, I think it's strange the way the father apprehended his own son. He legitimately claims that that his son confessed to him, right? And said that he was the shooter, which is the first report we got, that he allegedly confessed, but he's yet to confess to the authorities. But his father claimed that he confessed. And then his father even tells the authorities that he has him secured, and his son will remain secured until they could arrive to pick him up. Now that's very interesting. And the amount of examples I've witnessed as far as individual parents willing to their own children, it's something that most people wouldn't want to conceptualize or even potentially imagine being the case, but it definitely happens. And I think that this is something you can't rule out as a legitimate possibility. As far as this, a 27-year veteran of the police force, the father was, the mother is very much, she has a strange sort of career path as well. And I think that when you look at his uncle, apparently, who according to the mother's Facebook page, he was involved. His name was Michael Robinson, and he's involved in as an information system security manager with the Air Force, who was stationed at Hill Base, right in the area from 2015 to 2021. And then he allegedly was shipped off to Japan. But he has a strange background with being a system administrator with the Air Force, and has some strange recruitment events that he was a part of on behalf of recruiting children into this sort of military program. So again, you can combine that with the ROTC connection of like Tyler Robinson hanging around with these students who are going to this military training program. I'm just saying, like, we should be very careful. And it always screams, again, he's got like a 34 on his ACT or something, I think. And so it took a while as well for that narrative to form, which in my mind means it could very well have even been a manufactured false narrative to fit a purpose, because now I'm not saying it's impossible, and clearly it could very well have taken place and been the sort of for me, I feel like you should always remain skeptical and question every aspect of the details here, because in my mind I see the path of the Patsy. I see every single aspect of this guy's existence sort of, it seems as if and again, if you look at the George Zen dude as well, which is hilarious because he's obviously providing a misdirection, but he has a strange historical background as well, right? He had called in a bomb threat to some sort of city marathon in Utah just after the Boston Marathon bombing took place. This guy was calling in a bomb threat. And then also he says some strange things about how he knew Al Qaeda was responsible for 9/11 on the day of the Twin Tower attacks, right? Which I think is just again, like, this guy is clearly some sort of useful asset in terms of
100%.
running operations. Yeah, it has to be that. But
I love it too, because it's like he's, that means everything about it. Like his pants being down and everything about it was bullshit. Like, because that guy, I would agree with that, Austin, is 100% bullshit. Yeah, he's calling it a bomb threat right after the Boston Marathon bombing. What's really weird too is like the pictures of him from back then. He looks like the same. I'm like, this guy's been old forever. Like he's been very old forever. It's really weird. I'm like, he's got the same pattern of baldness and everything. But yeah, very, very obvious. But like I said, man, I just don't know if. I think this is one of these things that's designed to be a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. It is the gift that will continue to give endlessly. And I think the real thing, and going back to when you were talking about that, like that refining process of looking inward, wherever we're going, God forbid we actually are going someplace where we're going to need leaders. We just did this episode where we talked about this absence of strong male figures and all of this. It's like, you had better begin that burning process, that burning off of the dead that's inside you, that is to your detriment and the detriment of everybody around you. Shout out to Jordan Peterson, the late great Jordan Peterson, when he talks about behaving in a way that is not only beneficial to you, but it's beneficial to your family and your community, and it's beneficial now and 5 years from now and 10 years from now. The only way you get to be a person like that, and it looks like we're going to need people like that, is to start looking inward. We make fun of, I'll just go out and say it, the Black community for the white man is the cause of all of my problems and that victimhood mindset. Just be careful that you don't fall into the same mindset. If you're listening to this and you recognize this or the whatever's, it doesn't matter, dude. It's all the same thing. And it's to take away your power and put it in the hands of somebody else, some nefarious. And let's say, it's very real. They own these industries and everything. But if you stand any chance at being anybody that is worth their salt, what you need to do is look inward and burn off that weakness. So every time they tell you they got a new enemy, every time they tell you it's a community or it's the Black community or it's this community or it's that, look inside, burn some other piece of weakness off, because even if it is all these people, that means where we're going is super dangerous, and we're going to need people that don't suck. So get to burning off that weakness.
Speaking of needing people that don't suck, man, I got to bring it in for a landing, but Austin, tell people where they could find people that don't suck.
Yeah.
All right. I agree wholeheartedly. I will say, as far as I think the collectivist trap is that exactly what it is, right? It's a trap, preordained outcome, and this is the only way forward is to pursue individual sovereignty, and through doing that, and through pursuing that individuality, which I think you should always attempt to kind of, again, it's in my mind, it's really the only way that you can really become a net positive or a net benefit to the society at large, is to essentially kind of focus on what you can control, right? And I think that is effectively the environment you surround yourself with, and I think the relationships you choose to prioritize as being obviously the most fulfilling and worthwhile, and then also cutting off the cancers, as you mentioned, right? I think it's very, very important for everyone to attempt to, at the very least, improve in that way. And only then can you kind of find yourself in a position where you end up inevitably becoming a net positive benefit in that sort of way. But again, it's not through pursuing the collectivist agenda in no way. It's only through the pursuit of individual sovereignty. And so I try and flush the poison pill of collectivism every chance I get. You know what I mean? And that's my priority. And you see the strange connections to Charlie's security detail and things, and I won't keep going, but I swear it's interesting because they have connections to the FBI, Israel. You have one of the security. Yeah, it's strange. The Echelon Front is allegedly what it's called, and they're wiping all their records allegedly. It seems as if they're covering their tracks, so I'm not at all shocked as far as that.
Some of these guys work for Jocko Willink.
Yeah, man. It's very strange. Schaefer Security Group is one of the, I think, key kind of
Elijah.
No.
Oh my God. But again, it's just like at every level, I'm wondering at this point, how much of it, and I mentioned the Kabbalistic theme that's heavily involved in much of this. And I remember it was Bill Cooper, I had mentioned earlier, who was reacting to that of Columbine. He explains that he believed, and it drove him to tears. It was really emotional watching it, honestly. And it was just a fresh reaction just after the report came down of what occurred at Columbine. And I truly believe he had good faith intentions as far as Bill Cooper is concerned. Many people think he's compromised. I don't. I think he was more utilized and exploited at times, unfortunately. But at the same time, I still think he was a net benefit. But what was strange is that he evoked the rites of Ishtar with in direct parallel to that of what's happening with the school shootings. And this was very interesting. And the first thought I had when the Minneapolis school shooting happened, right, in Minnesota, because it was the exact same timing. All the kids going back to school, all right, and it's sort of the humans in the springtime. The rites of Ishtar and Moloch is what Bill Cooper was claiming was potentially a part of the ritual blood that happens in these certain seasons, and that the reason why it's more effective in the springtime to children in this sort of blood ritual fashion. And I found it very interesting, especially understanding I mentioned Project Monarch a bunch of times, and this is my last thing that I wanted to mention to you guys, and I'll plug, and that is just that basically you have this interview with Paul Benassi, the Franklin victim, and he talks about how he's stationed with Harris Livick, a colonel who's stationed at Fort Defiance in Virginia. And they said he's running a military school, and he housed the Monarch boys there. And this is where Benassi claims he received some of his training, right? And And so it's interesting as well because this always fits, right? Where they have these domestic black sites where they run these training sites, right? Where even Claudia Mullen claimed this. She said in the early 1950s, she said that she was brought to a training camp domestically in Deer Creek Woods in a remote Deer Creek Wood cabins, or something to that effect. Deer Creek Woods was the name of it, in this remote location on domestic black site. And essentially what she claimed is she was brought there with 75 other children multiple times, and they would train her and the other children in how to pleasure a priority target.
I'm so sorry. It's just a chat. I'm watching David.
Oh, I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm so interested.
I'm sorry, bro.
No, please keep going.
Okay. All right. So honestly,
Shut the David.
Dude, I'm sorry.
Stop it.
Okay.
No.
So
I love that. I love you so much, Austin.
I love you guys, dude. I for
Be
real.
nice.
I think it was the chat. They're just. I can't even look at what they're. Every time I look over, they're just killing me. I'm trying to just be a normal person, and they're ruining my life. Okay, so no, but you're talking about 75 children that went missing, and I'm thinking about you. Please, no, don't stop the plugs. Tell me about them.
Also, we didn't even listen. He said that he keeps saying the Kabbalistic nature of the Charlie Kirk assassination, and we didn't even say the menorah
Oh my
that he was
God,
murdered
he got shot
in.
on a menorah.
But, okay, finish. I'm sorry, Austin.
The 75 children.
David, please.
No, it's them.
Okay. No, I just think that once you begin to understand, right, as far as this moment in time where they're grappling with using human honeypots and specifically child in this case in the early 50s, where you had Gottlieb and Captain George White and all these strange Dr. James Hamilton, all these individuals who were helping facilitate the MKUltra program on behalf of Sidney Gottlieb, the dark sorcerer of MKUltra himself, right? And essentially, the claim is that she was basically recruited. Now, it makes a lot of sense because honestly, they were grappling with this ability to this to me perfectly ties in the reason why Richard Helms destroyed thousands of files that were clandestine files that had to do with MKUltra specifically. But I think that much of what they would have prioritized as far as the destruction of the files would have been clearly the human honey trap child prostitution experimentation files. You would want to prioritize those as far as not ever letting them become fully disclosed to the public or any sort of transparency taking place. So I think that's when
you mentioned before for like a brief moment this idea of 75 children going missing. Yeah. Is that what you said?
So this is a part of a sinister sub-project that was built into one of the MKUltra sub-projects, and it was specifically on how they would utilize children in this sort of fashion. And so Claudia Mullen herself, she happens to testify that and this is in 57, that to the year of 1957 through 1958, she claims this is the period that she experienced the abuse. And she was brought into Sidney Gottlieb's inner circle by this leadership at Tulane University. And again, this is where they're planting electrodes deep inside your brain and just like while you're undergoing you're on the chemical compound mescaline, you're on a heaven and hell journey, right, on the compound, and they're just like deeply implanting electrodes in the subject's brain and like pulling strings and asking you how it's affecting you. It's insane what they were doing. But again, Mullen herself, it's very interesting what she testified to have experienced, because she says that basically when she's brought into Gottlieb's inner circle and a number of doctors were testing her intelligence, the way she responded, how obedient she was, how much pain she could endure, and a number of other things. Then in 1959, this group brought her to the rather remote Deep Creek cabins in Maryland, okay, where her training as a child prostitute began. Each time she went, she was with a group of 75 other kids. During the 1960s and 70s, she was regularly used to entrap important officials. Two of them she mentioned, Senator Frank Church of the church committee hearings that was leading the transparency for public disclosure on behalf of exposing the intelligence apparatus and what the CIA was running as far as domestic operations are concerned, he himself was alleged to have been compromised by Claudia Mullen during this process, which I find fascinating, right?
Claudia Mullen is the one who's giving this testimony?
Yeah, she testified in the 70s, right, to all of this, and claimed that not only Frank Church, but I believe there were Senator Russell B. Long of Louisiana. He was also one that she specifically was sent to essentially compromise, right? And he was later on. He was involved in the investigation of JFK assassination alongside Jim Garrison. So he was potentially a controlled infiltrator who was attempting to at least, I would say, maybe expose to the cabal what was being, investigated by Garrison himself, which is very interesting to me. And then the final point, I swear, and then I'll stop. And that is just because I had mentioned the Kabbalistic nature of things, and I swear, I'm sorry, dude, but I think it's important because the Project Monarch, I swear, man, like I've been really drawn to. It's appealing to me as obviously being one of my next solo projects. I can't help myself. Like I just
have to have you on then to do after you do it, to do a Project Monarch breakdown, because I think that's probably the project that's directly the most important, just given what's been going on lately. But go on.
Exactly. And so essentially the claim here is that that basically you have Paul Benassi, right, who he's claiming that most of this mind control program was under the name Monarch and was headquartered strategically at the Air Command at Offwood Air Force Base, right? And that you had Michael Aquino directly implicated in this. Noreen Gosh, the mother of Johnny Gosh, also implicated him in the trial, right, for her missing and kidnapped son. And so Senator John DeCamp, he ultimately becomes the person who brings the victim witnesses accounts to the forefront, right? Alicia Owen, Paul Benassi, Loretta Smith, Troy Boner, all these individuals who were implicated as being victims in the Franklin scandal. And so Benassi and these other child victims were giving these very credible testimonies and evidence as well as to the very deep detail involved in the role of Michael Aquino and his sort of depraved nature involved in this psychological warfare section, which was drawing upon his expertise, allegedly, for his personal practices in brainwashing, Satanism, Nazism, homosexual, and murder, obviously.
A lot of redundancies there.
Sounds like a Laney edit.
Sounds like a Laney edit. Yeah.
It's crazy though, because essentially what he explains, right, is that an account of the origin of the Monarch Project has been basically compiled by those who have been debriefing DID, MPD, multiple personality disorder child victims. So he claims that Nazi experimentation in World War II concentration camps were said to have gone beyond simply insane physical tortures. They brainwashed individuals for military and strategic purposes. Alan Dulles, post-war, and other Western intelligence agents through obviously Operation Paperclip. This is why the timing lines up so perfectly. That essentially they come back to the U.S. and among them was an individual that was a teenage concentration camp inmate named Dr. Greenbaum. All right, and this guy is later referred to as Dr. Green, and he allegedly participated to save himself, like many of the stories claim, right? And but in reality, he becomes this high-level mind control manipulator, and he's widely represented in these MKUltra programs. And John DeCamp himself describes a distinctive Kabbalistic magic theme involved, and that in these that were brought over from the concentration camps themselves were trained and organized by psychiatrists, apparently, and eugenicists operating from the T4 Bureau specifically. This is what John DeCamp says. These psychiatrists had long been the pets of white supremacist British and American financier networks. Sounds like the Pilgrim Society and the Anglo-American establishment, or the Society of the Cincinnati. It sounds like specifically those organizations of powerful influence. And at least some of these doctors were of course brought under the supervision of the Bank of England governor and Tavistock Institute director John R. Rees on behalf of the British government and the U.S. government. And so Norman personally was a theosophist who had been chief of the pre-war pro-Nazi faction within England. And Rees organized post-war propaganda and continuing psychological warfare activities, creating Orwellian groupings within U.S. psychiatry and mental health fields. So that seems like the origin of Monarch itself, just briefly, which brings in utilizing domestic training camps for child human honeypot operations, as well as obviously this diabolical role involving mental health and psychiatry, which I think you can sort of, I believe you can tie firmly around the neck of this sort of movement, right? You can tie the movement around the mental health movement. And I think that all was strategically by design to fulfill this sort of, in my mind, it's a manufactured prophecy in a sort of way. And it will ultimately lead us into this totalitarian technocratic state. And I hope to God
also
that I'm
leads
wrong.
into that free range aspect that we get
just to tie, the free range stuff. But to tie a bow on that, we have my wife has a family friend who my wife has a family friend who is in the psychiatric business. They are a psychiatrist themselves or psychologist, whichever one.
Oh, is that the one with the?
Yeah,
there you
but
go.
her client base and her husband is in the same field. Her client base is specifically in crowd.
Yeah, they're just cutting straight to the chase.
And they are actively transitioning their son, not physically transitioning, but the kids in kindergarten talking about,
dressing like a girl, and
they put him in. Yeah, so it's like, now I think the question is like, I think we're correct on the free range, where I don't know if someone has actually has actively reached out to her and been like, do this, or if the programming is such that
you just wind them up and let them go.
There's like, we're like hands off at this point, and it's going to do what it's going to do. It just needs a little bit of a,
that's what I think,
back and forth balance.
Yeah, they put bumpers on so that it keeps going straight. But yeah,
that's why the mother of Charlie Kirk as well. I didn't realize Kimberly Kirk. She was a trader, right, in the stock market, in the Chicago exchange. But then this is before she becomes a mental health counselor. So I just thought it was hilarious, because you have that, and then the father's connection, and I'll plug, is Robert Kirk. He allegedly he's an architect who owned and operated a design firm focused on residential housing, and reportedly worked on Trump Tower in New York City.
That's interesting.
Now here's one more strange connection. He was politically active behind the scenes and was a major donor to Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential election campaign.
There's a Mormon connection, huh?
Yeah.
Mormon connection, son, which is another reason why it's like Process Church becomes the Best Friends Animal Welfare Society or whatever, and their hub headquarters is located in Utah. Provo, Utah is named in the Paul Wiltshire report as being one of the locations where they're implementing this sort of mind control, MKUltra experimentation, just like Waco, they claimed, was post-war a geographical area that they were utilizing for that purpose as well. And some of the institutions there were reinforcing all of it. And so it just goes to show there are strategic geographical hubs domestically all through the U.S. where they're facilitating these covert clandestine operational methods on a daily basis. And
some shit is going down in Utah. Utah is a strange place.
Arizona as well, where Charlie Kirk is. All right, listen,
exactly.
I got to get out of here, Austin.
Okay.
You got to plug.
I love you guys,
brother.
I can't thank you enough. You guys already know, man. I admire you guys, and I honestly, I would love to come to Bro Grove again too, because
yes, 100%. We're looking at like February, March, and you're more than invited. And then when he comes here, we have him in studio.
Yes. Yeah,
I love that, guys. So yeah, everybody just go check out the Underclass podcast. If you have the financial means and anything I've ever done resonates with you, then please, by all means, I'm more than grateful, and I can't thank each and every one of you enough for even showing up and listening to my content. So I have nothing but love and respect for you two. And every time we get the chance to have a conversation, I feel ultimately blessed. And I again, man, this gives me hope and inspiration moving forward. So it's at all times feeling like I'm insulated from kind of the even the emotional reaction from a lot of this, because I feel like I have individuals like yourselves that I can rely on as keeping me somewhat, as far as like grounded in the moment and having that sort of life preserver in terms of ideologically in place to where I don't have to feel like I'm so alone as much as I have in the past. So
I'll tell you what though, Austin, because of people like you and people like Top, I have lulled myself into thinking that we were further along in our understanding of things than we really are.
He's new here.
I just like, I stopped talking to, I've been doing it for a while. I stopped talking to regular people and I said, surely they've caught up. Austin,
I'm done.
Are you having fun? No, are you having fun?
Oh, am I having fun? Man, honestly, I think I am. I'm trying to develop a better relationship with how I internalize things, because
William Ramsey is not having fun.
Oh, he's not.
He's not having fun. He was the only one that we asked who was like, fun.
I love William, dude.
What do you mean fun? Like, all right.
Did you not listen to anything I just told you?
Right. Dude, that is so funny. But yeah, I get why he would feel that way, just as far as the global death cult is concerned. But I think we need to always remind ourselves what matters most, and that's relationships like this. And again, like I had mentioned before, I'm so grateful for the relationship with my wife. And again, it's like, just remind yourself how beautiful your life truly is, because
Amen.
Honestly, stop focusing on all the darkness. You need to prioritize focusing on the light, at least to pull yourself out of that sort of demoralization that I think is by design. So I love you guys for real, man. Honestly. Thank you.
Love you, brother. I'm glad you're still having fun. If you ever tell us no, we're going to have an intervention.
Yeah, we're flying out to California.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right, guys. Another great episode. We will catch you probably tomorrow.
Whenever this I think airs. Tomorrow we're having Aim and Rat in Subliminal Messenger.
It doesn't matter. This stuff airs all out of whack
anyway.
Matter anyway. So by the time you hear it, who knows? Maybe we've been raptured. Obey something. Fly. Goodbye.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real. You can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see.